Welcome to This Dumb Week, a weekly live Twitter space hosted by Alex Marinos and yours truly, Dr. RollerGator. Available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and others. Alex, welcome back. Have you had a sufficiently dumb week?
Well, if you thought we'd beat the record from previous weeks, I think we're giving it a run for its money. What do you think?
Well, in some ways, I have an easy job. I just have to go look outside and see what the news is and procure it in order to try to talk about it. But in other ways, I have the most difficult job in the world because there is just way too much stuff happening way too quickly to actually have any hope of organizing this in a coherent fashion and satisfying what probably everyone would want to talk about, throughout the course of this show here.
Thankfully, we were wise in calling the show This Dumb Week because this obviously narrows it down to a very small number of events, right?
Right. Yes, it definitely
Once you discard all the reasonableness in the world, there's only, how much is there to talk about?
Exactly. Most things are very reasonable, so we only have the few things that are dumb to discuss. Well, we will of course get to the probably what would be the largest topic of Iran. We will get to that, but it's not the first thing to discuss because it might take the bulk of the show, and I don't want to dedicate the entire show to it because there isn't enough, let's say, in the way of sorting out up from down in that situation to make it worth the whole episode. I mean, there's plenty to go into, but not enough to dedicate the entire episode to it, in my opinion, satisfactorily. So we're going to get started with a couple things before we move on to Uncle Jeffy news and then Iran. If that's okay with you, Alex.
Yeah, no, I like the decompression stage of the show where we talk about everything else except for the thing that everybody's talking about.
All right. Well, we have an
lull them into a full sense of security, and then, bam.
We have somewhat of a decent size update here for you, Alex, in the D4VD case, which I know you're following closely because it's your favorite musical artist.
Yes, to all my alerts and everything.
The musical artist D4VD, otherwise pronounced as David. If you are not familiar with this case, this is a case out of California where a up-and-coming musician who goes by the moniker D4VD has found himself in quite a controversy. This man is 22 years old and had to cancel a recent international tour to handle a controversy that he has found himself in, where a 15-year-old girl named Celeste Rivas was found decapitated in his Tesla that was found inside of a towing company's lot. And this case has been investigated for approximately 6 months, with most signs pointing back towards David being complicit and involved in the decapitation and disappearance of this Celeste Rivas. But there has been no arrests yet. And this is an update on that case where a pending arrest may be around the corner.
All right. So as I mentioned, we got some breaking news tonight in another case. This is the case against the pop star David Anthony Burke, better known as David, spelled with a 4. Again, this is a massive story. We've been following it. It is huge online right now. Ton of interest. The singer has been in the spotlight ever since the body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was allegedly discovered in the trunk of this Tesla, or his Tesla. And the pair were supposedly in a relationship, although that wasn't confirmed by authorities. When police found Celeste's body in a Los Angeles tow yard in early September, talking about how far back this goes, initial reports indicated that her body wasn't just decomposed, that it had been dismembered. Today, we may have finally gotten confirmation of that disturbing detail, and also official confirmation that there is a real active criminal case against David for a charge of murder. And this is all thanks to previously sealed court records that were obtained by private investigator Steve Fisher, which he released to the public. He's going to come on in a minute. But the records are tied to the Los Angeles County grand jury investigation against the singer. And they contain allegations that when detectives discovered Celeste's body in the trunk of that Tesla, it wasn't in one, but two bags, including one identified as, quote, a cadaver bag. Yeah, one body, two separate bags. And I don't know, call it ironic or not, but we are learning all of this is thanks to David's family. You see, his Houston-based father and other relatives, they were served a summons to testify in the pop star's case back in January. But when they tried to fight it, their legal battle, which contained these documents, became public record thanks to Texas law. And again, Steve. Now, these documents raise some very big questions about the strength of the case against the singer, because prosecutors have seemingly known these details for months, right? And finding a body in two separate bags sure seems like something that would lead to an arrest. So why isn't David or anyone associated with him in cuffs? Now, we've reached out to David's team for comment, haven't gotten a reply yet. Joining me now exclusively is missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who has been covering this story since it began. Steve, thanks so much for coming on. I first have to ask you, what led you to post all this today? And I'll be clear, you were quite vocal about your frustrations in this case.
Yeah, listen, these documents became available, and to be honest with you, it was the first confirmation that I got that she was actually dismembered. That's something that, I couldn't find out. I really was hoping that that was not the case. And that just changed everything. I was vocal about it. I only do missing persons cases, and I'm really, really passionate about them, and especially about these victims that don't really have a voice and that are taken advantage of. And that is the case here with Celeste, who was 12 or 13 years old when this started. And it just, and I'm getting angry, to be honest with you. I don't like the way that things are moving forward, and the lack of transparency. But they're telling us that it's not a lack of transparency. It's just things need to change, and I think we need to get more vocal.
So I want to get into that, but now that this is in the court documents and is seemingly a confirmation, there was a conversation before, well, maybe she died accidentally. Let's say, there were some theories of drug overdose, people panicked, put her in the car, wasn't sure what to do with her. Now, if there's confirmation she was dismembered in such a brutal fashion, and that they are looking at a murder charge for him, intentional murder, what does that tell you? What is your theory of this case right now regarding what might have happened to Celeste?
Well, what happened was vicious, and this was not. And we were hoping it was like an overdose and a bad decision made by some people to figure out how to get rid of her body. But she was hacked apart. She wasn't surgically taken apart. She was brutally pulled apart, with instruments and tools, and put in two separate bags, and then thrown in the trunk of a car, and they went on with their lives for many months. And while she was there rotting, and it's infuriating. It is just sadistic. It is, listen, this is rare. This happens in the world. And this is why we need this person off the street. There's no. Well,
why do you think there's a delay in charges and arrest? Do you think this is a weakness in the case, or are they just building their case for the grand jury?
Well, maybe they're building their case, but 6 months is a very long time. Like how, this isn't like we found remains in a desert and there was nothing to go on. We're starting from zero. This is a girl that was found in somebody's registered vehicle in a wealthy neighborhood with a lot of cameras, in a car that has cameras. And, certainly, listen, I deal with like search warrant returns on cell phones all the time. That stuff comes back in 2 or 3 days. So they have her phone activity. They might not have her phone, but they have all those, things that they can tie together, and it just can't be that hard of a case. But
you mentioned the cadaver bag. Do you think that's tied to anybody?
Somebody bought it.
And they could track that.
Yeah, well, sure. And like, listen, we know that somebody ordered a burn cage, and it was delivered to the house in a different name, but that can be tracked. And I'm sure, how many private individuals are buying cadaver bags? Probably not that many. And, so I think there's things that go on, but I don't think it takes 6 months with top investigators.
So let me break this down. If you're talking about 2 bags, right, and what you know about the bags, you're also concerned by the fact that it looks like just David is the target, but you believe he might have had help here, right? Allegedly.
Yes, so it's all allegedly, but I mean, I don't see any way that this is done by one person. I just don't. And I also know that the car was moved by somebody other than David. I'm just certain that there was, people that knew about it. Listen, that car was putting off a foul odor. There's even live streams where there's a makeup artist that mentions an odor in the house, and they make up this excuse for it.
So there you go, Alex. There's your update. Not only was we have confirmation of the degree of dismemberment that she was put in several bags, and one of them was a cadaver bag, something that I'm sure everyone has in their household just in case. But still is a little bit of a damning sort of proposition for the average person, I guess.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I don't know if you had mentioned this, but I remember in a prior conversation you mentioned the frunk, and I explained that that space is such that I mean, I don't know, maybe she was a fairly small-bodied person, but the geometrics kind of would have entailed what we talked about here. Though now they're talking about a trunk, so I don't know what the deal is. I mean, look, okay, jokes aside now, because we kind of are joking about this guy writing a song and whatever. It is baffling, that he's still not, as far as I understand, he's still not arrested. He's still not charged 6 months later. I don't know if he's under some sort of restraint, can he just leave the country or whatever, or if simply wanted for questioning or what. I think, like you said, this isn't we found, a tooth somewhere and we're trying to figure out, and she was last seen with him or something. This is his car. What the hell?
Yeah.
It's registered his name. I mean, this is not the work of an intelligence agency hiding a body or anything.
Yeah. And then there was the chainsaw that they found in his house. And he's not a woodsman.
They found a chainsaw, did they?
Yeah, and he's not a woodsman, so
yeah.
This is this case keeps on going, and I'm of course I'm looking forward is probably the wrong expression, but I'm anticipating whenever the indictment finally comes down, because this is a long time coming. We've been talking about this case for so long, and no arrests have been made, even though there's really only one suspect. It's like one guy that is the obvious culprit.
Well, there might be multiple people who participated, but one of them is pretty dead to rights. He wants to claim that he was framed or something. Well, okay, did you not miss your car? Okay, you're rich, whatever. Who had your car? This is a Tesla. These are tracked, man. This is not rocket science here. You don't need the NSA.
Yeah. So either they're really gathering as much compelling evidence as possible and organizing it, and that's just taking a long time, or there's something weird going on, perhaps where there is a piece of, let's say, protective information that doesn't give them the ability to pin it specifically on him. But it does look like there is a pending, something pending around the corner, which we will.
Well, if it's a young girl, it falls under the Epstein statutes, where you get a sweetheart deal and you get to. Yeah, I don't know. I
see.
Hopefully not.
Well, I mean, speaking of Uncle Jeffrey, we have
just to say, look, this is fascinating because it's a kind of a random case that nobody's seems to be really talking about, in the places that I follow, which kind of gives us a good neutral experiment for, police fuckery and whatever, right? This isn't a situation where the police is trying to avoid, I don't know, publicity. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's
big community of his fans on TikTok or something that I wouldn't come in contact with. But all I'm saying is that, yes, the obvious thing here is starting to look like there's some protection. But for us to say that sort of with some degree of conviction, we would have to understand how long it normally takes for such a case to come down properly, et cetera, et cetera. Not everything is Charlie Kirk, is I guess what I'm saying. Like, where
right.
They can just wrap it all up in 3 months or even in 3 weeks. So anyway, it will be good to see. Hopefully he doesn't get away with it, or get a heads up and disappears to Mexico or whatever. Or if he does, perhaps we can inform the cartels.
They have a talented individual they can scout out then, who is familiar with their methods.
Is he into skateboarding, snowboarding? Sorry, do we know?
No. To my knowledge, he's not a Olympic snowboarder who went into the cartel leader pipeline. But we have an interesting little story here, sort of a whodunit, but I guess a positive whodunit, a very bizarre one out of Japan. Japanese city received 21 gold bars with instructions to fix your water pipes. Officials in Osaka, Japan, did not pay much attention when an anonymous donor pledged $3,000 towards repairing the city's water pipes. Sorry, $3 million. But when they did a few weeks later, when the same donor sent the city a second installment, 21 gold bars worth more than $3 million and weighing about as much as an airline passenger's checked baggage allowance. The gift, made in November and revealed last week by Osaka officials, has prompted speculation about the mystery donor and their motives. It has also focused attention on the city's aging water pipes, which are some of the oldest in Japan. The city said in a statement that the gold bars were worth 566 million yen, or about $3.6 million, and that it would honor the donor's wishes by using the money on the city's waterworks. The anonymous donations will go towards the budget of the new fiscal year that starts in April, the Osaka Waterworks Bureau said. The gold will only help to fix a little more than a mile of the 350 miles of pipes that need to be replaced in Osaka, according to the Bureau, but it illustrates frustration with the city's aging water system that has been building for years. Now, Alex, do you happen to have any gold bars available to donate to your local city, municipality, in order for them to fix the water pipes? Any
bars? No.
No gold bars.
No bars. No gold bars whatsoever.
Gold leaf.
It makes me wonder, though, what kind of person would be in possession of funds without perhaps the ability to transfer said funds via the banking system.
Now, not contained in the news reports, because this was an anonymous donation without any real hint as to who the donor was. But in other places, I have heard rumor that it might be something along the lines of the Yakuza, who apparently
yes, that's what I was implying heavily.
have a somewhat of a relationship with local governments where they can be afforded the governments to look the other way at certain points in time, and in return offer some assistance in the governance area. But I do not know personally if I would say it would be the Yakuza who's donating $3.6 million worth of gold bars. But it is
completely uninformed speculation. But Japan is known for having good metalworking and whatnot. So if you are a criminal and you've stolen a bunch of jewelry or whatever, it's not inconceivable that you melt it down into bars and then have a relatively low traceability of highly suspect way to provide
now this is interesting
that isn't cash,
because in the modern era I was under the impression that only things like cryptocurrency were used by criminal organizations. I would never imagine that legitimate forms of wealth were used by criminal organizations as long as they were untraceable. I would never have imagined that.
No. Yeah, well, there you go. So now what do we do?
I don't know.
It's time to criminalize gold. It's time to pass laws on how much gold you can. Apparently, this was done. I don't know if you know this, but early 20th century, at some point, I think it was World War I related, but the U.S. government passed laws where U.S. citizens had to turn over their gold.
Yes. There have been gold confiscation activity in the past that makes.
Why not that again?
Well, so there's your fascinating mystery. Before we move into now some Epstein updates. Now, our Epstein updates are not as large as they have been in the last couple weeks. So they're actually quite small enough that I won't even bother playing the song that never ends as the intro. We'll just jump straight into Uncle Jeffy news because the news is somewhat less voluminous than it was. But Bill and Hillary Clinton did a closed-door testimony in Congress about their relationship with Uncle Jeffy. And Bill Clinton posted a message to X, and he posted a long formal message, but then also had a tweet introducing his long formal message. And his tweet contained, as someone who grew up in a home with domestic abuse, not only would I not have flown on his plane if I had any inkling of what he was doing, I would have turned him in myself and led the call for justice for his crimes, not sweetheart deals. So that was Bill Clinton's introduction on X to his formal memo. And I will now read to you Bill Clinton's formal memo on response to his Jeffrey Epstein testimony. Good morning and welcome to Chappaqua. I am here today for two reasons. The first is that I love my country, and America was built on the idea that no person is above the law, even presidents, especially presidents. Democracy requires every person to play their part, and I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree with one another.
Sorry to interrupt.
Civilly. Yes.
This early in the arc, but hadn't he refused to testify like 2 weeks ago?
Yes, there was a refusal a few weeks ago.
Didn't they say this is where we draw the line?
Well, they did threaten them with threaten them with contempt of Congress, which
in turn showed them that nobody's above the law. Is that how this works?
I guess they realized, oh wait, whoops, we're not above the law, and we knew that all along retroactively.
Exactly. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but we
just clarifying my understanding here because I was a little bit disoriented.
We can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to being a country where we can disagree with one another civilly, where the search for truth and justice outweighs the partisan urge to score points and create a spectacle. I'll do my part, and I hope you'll do yours. The second reason I'm here is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not only justice, but healing. They've been waiting for too long for both. Though my brief acquaintance with Epstein ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication of what was truly going on, I'm here to offer what little I know so that it might prevent anything like this from ever happening again. Before I start, I have to get personal. You made Hillary come in. She had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing. She has no memory of even meeting him. She neither traveled with him nor visited any of his properties. Whether you subpoenaed 10 people or 10,000, including her, was simply not right. We begin this hearing with me raising my hand and taking an oath to tell the truth, but everyone has a responsibility to be honest with those they represent. Whether you raised your right hand or not, each and every one of us owes nothing less than the truth and accuracy to the American people. Now, let me say what you're going to hear from me. First, I had no idea the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein was committing, no matter how many photos you show of me. I have two things at the end of the day that matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong. As someone who grew up in a home with domestic abuse, not only would I not have flown on his plane if I had any inkling of what he was doing, I would have turned him in myself and led the call for justice for his crimes, not sweetheart deals. But even with 20/20 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me pause. We are only here because he hid it from everyone so well for so long, and by the time it came to light with his 2008 guilty plea, I had long stopped associating with him. You'll often hear me say that I don't recall. That might be unsatisfying. I'm not going to say something I'm not sure of. This was all a long time ago, and I'm bound to my oath not to speculate or to guess. This is not merely for my benefit, but because it doesn't help you for me to play detective 24 years later. Since I'm under oath, I will not falsely state that I am looking forward to your questions, but I am ready to answer them to the best of my abilities, consistent with the facts as I know them, the legitimate, the logical, and even the outlandish. And that with that, Mr. Chairman, fire away. That was the memo that he posted to X the other day. Now, I'm sure that if he did remember something very specific that he told them, and that it helped them in their investigation understand the magnitude of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, and therefore he was a very helpful witness in the closed door testimonies. Alex, do you have any doubt in your mind that Bill Clinton was helpful in those meetings?
I don't know, man. It's so incredible to me that these people speak in a register that implies that we were just transported to this point in time with no memory of what transpired, 2 weeks or 2 decades earlier. It's like, well, I would always tell the truth, of course. Well, there was that one time. The whole nation caught me with my pants down, literally. But, other than that...
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't know. It's embarrassing.
Then there was a little bit of disagreement over what the meaning of is. So don't confuse.
Yeah, but if you don't know what the meaning of is, so how can you know the meaning of is? So, it can get complicated.
It can get complicated. And that's why we give Mr. Clinton the benefit of the doubt that he saw nothing and did nothing wrong. Now, here's the question for you. If you find yourself as Bill Clinton in a room with Jeffrey Epstein, at no point do you remark at how somehow the universe has found the only human being that is hornier than you and placed you both in the same proximity. Like, these two people were like the horniest individuals you could possibly imagine, and they're just hanging out together.
This was pre the testosterone treatment that made Epstein. What was it? What was Tracy? What was the word he used? Unwise or whatever. Impulsive. Yes. That's right. Made Epstein impulsive. So at that time, he must have really had it together. Oh my God, so bad.
So there's that, and then we have here. ABC News, where Bill Gates has chimed in again on some of the revelations and made a little bit of an admission.
We turn now to Microsoft founder Bill Gates, his eye-opening apology for his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a town hall meeting with employees, Gates admitting to 2 affairs with Russian women and what he says about the photos of him in the Epstein files. Here's Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates revealing more damaging information about his personal life and admitting to a series of stunning lapses in judgment in building a relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Today, the fallout growing as Gates was pressed by employees at a Gates Foundation town hall. According to the Wall Street Journal, which revealed audio of the meeting, Gates told employees it was a huge mistake to spend time with Epstein. He acknowledged that his relationship with Epstein began after Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor. And he claimed that he, one of the wealthiest men in the world, did not properly research Epstein's background that would have revealed his sordid past. Knowing what I know now makes it, 100 times worse. Gates acknowledged his association probably helped Epstein rehabilitate his image, and he revealed other damning specifics, saying the men flew together on a private jet and that they hung out in Germany, France, New York, and Washington. But Gates was adamant that he never witnessed any criminal activity. But Gates did acknowledge he had affairs with 2 Russian women. And Gates also addressed these photos, saying there were pictures Epstein asked him to take with his assistants. His ex-wife recently saying Gates needs to answer questions.
Those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me. Well, and I am so happy to be away from all the muck.
David Gates' indiscretions contributed to the failure of his marriage. And tonight, another powerful man suffering the consequences of his ties to Epstein. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers resigning from Harvard because of his relationship with Epstein. David?
Beard.
So there you go, Alex. We have two affairs with Russian women. Now, what type of affairs? I don't have the details on. Were these, was this a boyfriend-girlfriend sort of mistress relationship, or were they Russian prostitutes that he perhaps partook in? You know, were they escorts that he had these affairs
It
with?
could be boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend.
It could be.
We don't know if he dabbled in polyamory, for example.
This is true. I will say, though,
I mean, the only shocking thing about all this is that that he sort of just was admitted somehow. That's the shocking part. I mean, his wife clearly knows a lot. Was probably signed enough to not be able to, freely speak, but she does seem very happy whenever anything comes out.
She just
to wink, nod, confirm it.
She seems to express the same sentiment that most Windows users have nowadays, which is that they just want to wash their hands of the whole thing and let it be done with. That's
exactly.
So there
one of my favorite smart assery that came out of the Windows wars was in a world without walls, who needs windows and gates? Now that I got that out of my system.
Well, let me give you the. I needed to give you the duck quack. Thank you.
I deserve that. I accept my punishment.
Now, here's the thing. You're familiar with the concept of limited hangout, right? That is where you admit something. You admit something that people were suspecting in order to get them to stop asking questions, and you don't have to admit the larger thing that you're trying to protect. And so the affairs that he is admitting to my understanding, don't exactly have any more corroboratory evidence that would have forced his hand to admit them. So the question to my mind becomes, was there truth behind the email that Uncle Jeffy wrote himself accusing Bill of coming to him for some STD meds, some antibiotics to give Melinda there secretly? Is there any truth to that is causing him to admit to the affairs so that he can avoid admitting to the STD rumor?
Yeah, no, what? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to me. I haven't dug in, but he seemed to be, well, okay. So from what I know, like I haven't seen the piece of evidence to force his hand to speak. So this means that there's either a piece of evidence that came out that made it, drove the calculus for him, said like, fuck it, just admit to something. Or there's some photos that are mentioned, but those themselves don't seem to be, again, like a lock, let's say, enough to cross that threshold. Or alternatively, a limited hangout is what you do when you're trapped, and I don't understand the full geometry of the trap he was in, which might itself be informative, right? Because let's say that photo got released and he admitted to an affair. Perhaps he doesn't want people digging into that photo more or something. Speculation, of course, all this speculation. It's just kind of confusing to me why he would come out with this now.
Yeah, I also don't see that many people really caring about Bill Gates outside of mocking him. Like, there isn't anyone that I'm aware of that it is digging into the Bill Gates files right? To see what else he might have done that was untoward. It's like Bill Gates is sort of caught up in this, and it's just like the guy from Microsoft.
Well, I can. So you saw this. I shared with you a draft that my wife is working on, right?
Yes.
That maybe we won't go into in detail, but I can tell you some of the bits and pieces that are interesting that weren't even really covered in there, but have to do with tweets that Elon made recently.
Okay.
So Elon recently tweeted that Epstein got Gates to short Tesla. Have you seen that one?
I did not see that.
Okay, so do you know anything about the short of Tesla by Gates?
I do not.
That's it's got its own side plot that has been going on for a very long time.
Can you give us the introduction to it? Yeah.
Sure. So basically, during the hard times that Tesla was going through, in 2018, 2019, before it kind of blew up and became, a financial colossus that can defend itself, there was a very, very strong movement to short Tesla. Right. That led all the way to Elon trying to take it private, and that blowing up. And there's also some very fascinating clues in the Epstein files about that, which I hope to
try to expand, because not everybody is financially adept. Shorting is basically a process of attempting to bet against the stock, and if you do it in a high enough volume, you drive down the trade price. Because what happens is you typically have to have a decent reputation with your broker, and you have to be able to take out what's called a margin account, which means that the broker is willing to lend you money, so to speak, and you can then
or you could be one of the richest people in the world, in which case you could just do it.
Sure. But effectively what you're doing is you are borrowing other people's shares of a stock, and you are selling them immediately, and you are pocketing the money at that point, and you are then waiting to see if the price drops.
But importantly, you're giving an IOU for one stock to the person who
correct. Yes. And you are trying to wait for the price to drop so that you can buy back cheaper and you keep the difference. So if I sell your shares for $100, I have $100, and I'm hoping to buy them back at $90 so I can return your share to you and I can pocket $10. And a large amount of this activity puts a sale pressure, a negative pressure onto the price of the stock, and can drive the stock price down. And this can be done in a malicious way by people who are attempting to get the total value of the company down to a level where they might be able to purchase it in a hostile fashion, a hostile takeover of the company. That's one reason that activity can be engaged in, which is to try to put deflationary pressure on the price of a stock in order to be able to basically do a hostile takeover and purchase enough shares to own a controlling percentage of the company. Now, is that something you think they might have been doing as an angle there, or was it just to attempt to profit off of a plummet in price?
Well, so basically the two are the same, right? It's just passive and active. It's either you're betting against a stock and waiting for it to drop, or doing it at a scale, right? And potentially with amplification involved. So for example, you could advertise your short, right? You could tell people you're shorting, which might drive other people to short. Therefore, sort of using your credible signal of, I put my money down to get other people to put their money down, which again can, like, let's say, cause a 10x increase in the signal, with the idea being that either you what is it, the concept of the pump and dump is when you talk something up and then you sell it while it's up before it comes back down. There's the opposite, which is called short and distort, which is you short something, then you make a big deal about it, then when other people short, you then quietly buy back while it's down, pocket your earnings, and then let others sort of hold the bag. It's the same idea, but in reverse.
The strength of a signal on someone saying that they're shorting a stock can be pretty high, because unlike purchasing a stock, there is no bottom when it comes to the amount you could lose in a shorting endeavor.
Correct.
Because what happens is there's a odd, well, not odd, but a very nuanced sort of dynamic when you short a stock. And that means that people have to be willing to sell you shares at the moment that you're trying to get rid of your short position. Meaning, if I have this position where I have now borrowed a stock and I've sold it, and this is Alex's stock that I borrowed, and I have $100 physically, but I need to return to him a stock in order to complete the whole thing. If the price starts to increase and go up and up and up, I have to now spend more than $100 in order to return the share to him in order to get out of the hole I'm in. There is no end to the amount of price that it can go up. It could double, it could triple, it could quadruple. And if I'm not able to purchase enough shares to get out of this quickly, then I wind up being screwed with the amount of money I have to spend in order to get out of this. Whereas if you're purchasing a stock normally, the price goes to zero and you know exactly how much you've lost. But the short works it differently, where you could lose 3 times your money doing it. So that's
or more. So just to give you a sense, and this requires some assumptions here. Okay, I will make some assumptions, and they're going to be very clear what they are. But basically, what Elon said is that Epstein got Gates to short Tesla, but he didn't just say that. He said he got him to short about 1% of Tesla, while Tesla was at a valuation of $40 billion. Okay. Mm-hmm. That means it was a $400 million bet against Tesla.
Yeah.
Elon also said that he doesn't know if the short has been closed yet. Now, that is fascinating because Tesla has risen about 32 times since. So if we take every assumption I just mentioned at face value, and I haven't fucked up the math, which I totally could have, so add some error bars around what I'm going to say, it may be that Gates has lost $12 billion in that bet.
That's so. I'm glad I took the time to explain the lack of 0 point, because if that's the case, that's wow. One, to have enough money to lose at that level. Yeah. That's quite impressive. I mean, there's been times where I've lost $10,000 in a day, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I actually have enough going into the investment world to lose $10,000 in a day. But now
that's right. That's right. Yes.
I have not.
That's
eclipsed,
not really.
I have not eclipsed Bill Gates' level of. Yes. So shorting stock is a risky behavior. It can pay off. I mean, it is a way of. If you do it in small amounts as a normal investor, it is a way where if you think a stock is way overhyped, that you can actually make money off of that overhype, right? So if you think something's a bubble, if you think certain things are a bubble, you can do a short sale of a modest amount where you borrow someone else's stock, you get the money, and you wait for the price to decrease. And if you think it's a bubble, hopefully you're doing it at the point where the bubble's about to pop and not like halfway in there. It's actually sort of what the movie The Big Short, documenting the housing bubble in 2008, that's what that was all about, is people making the long play on this very similar concept. The mechanics are a little bit more complicated, obviously, but it's the same idea that they're waiting for the bubble to pop, and you don't want to be too early, because if the price keeps rising, the bubble keeps growing, you wind up losing a lot of money, as Alex is indicating Bill Gates might have lost.
I actually plugged the numbers into Claude, which indicates that the unrealized loss, like beyond the 15.3 billion, beyond the 400 million, is 15.3 billion. And if we add borrowing costs, that's another 330 million. So we're approaching 16 billion. So there's that.
Now, do you think right now Bill Gates regrets the short more, or the email coming out saying that he tried to give Melinda?
I think he regrets the divorce more, actually.
Okay, all right, okay.
If you check out what that cost him,
okay,
it's not been a W. It's not been a W on the financial front.
All right. Well, so then would you say that his friendship, whatever the extent was with Epstein, did not pay off that well for him across many categories?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. There were leaked messages there is some confirmation. It says in leaked text messages from April 2022, Musk asked Gates directly, "Do you still have a $500 million short position against Tesla?" Gates replied, "Sorry to say, I haven't closed it out."
And how much was he in the hole at that time?
Who knows? We need to check. But I'm just saying, like, there is. I knew there was third-party confirmation. I did not know there were leaked text messages. That is, with numbers.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. Thank you for bringing that to all of our attention here.
Anyway, yeah. So, I guess to connect it to the Epstein story, what we had not known about all of this is the precise numbers. Okay, but also that according to Elon, who, say what you want, but on this particular topic, he kind of has a reason to know. According to Elon, it was Epstein who got Gates to do that. Now, again, the part I have confirmed is that so what Elon said is that Elon blocked Epstein from emailing him because he kept like pinging him, bugging him, and saying like, "Come to my island, do this," and let's meet again, let's meet for dinner, blah blah blah. At some point, Elon just had enough and blocked him. Which I saw that. So I chased that down, and not me, my wife she chased that down, and she did find the email where he was blocked on the protocol level. I've never seen that. There's an error code from SMTP you can get when the mail server you're emailing just doesn't want your specific email.
He rejected the whole host.
There was that.
All right.
Yeah, he just was like, no emails from that guy anymore, thanks. And that there weren't any substantial or any at all conversations between them since. Which kind of actually goes to say that, the whole narrative that people are spreading that like, Elon was begging for an invitation to the island and whatever. I think once you see the whole timeline of their interactions, which is what Eva dug up, it could not be farther from the truth. It's quite fascinating, and I hope people see it.
I think, though, that Elon did himself a disservice when he simply tweeted, "Trump is in the Epstein files," because that statement alone, I even said at the time, was going to probably come back and haunt him, because I bet you Elon is in the Epstein files, because being in the files is very... very mundane, and probably lots of people are in the files, whether they did anything wrong or not.
Well, okay, but the charitable reading to Elon, but if not to Trump, is that he's in the Epstein files in ways that are very embarrassing, and he would prefer to take the hit that he's taking now than to release them. There is, I think, continued indications that the files have been basically scrubbed from Trump mentions. So I guess that one is a long fuse that will keep dripping, I think, over the next couple of years.
Well, you heard?
I just wanted to sort of bring this whole little package out, because it's fascinating, and it's it also tells us something that I think we will keep going with the Epstein files. I think somebody had mentioned this. I regret I don't remember who it was, but they basically said, look, this is going to be another one of those, like the WikiLeaks files, where a whole bunch of stories are going to keep coming back to this, and we are either going to re-understand things that we knew about, or future stories are going to go back and check.
Well,
and find out that there was additional context.
Let's at least confirm via your Bill Gates shorting Tesla story here, where Epstein gave him the advice of shorting Tesla, that with this one anecdotal piece of information here, contrary to what sloppy Steve Bannon was indicating in his interview, Epstein was not necessarily this world's smartest financial advisor.
Not a good financial.
You know how they say it's not financial advice? Well, that was, but not good.
Look, I'm not the savviest investor of all time, and there are times where I think a particular sector or a particular set of stocks are going to do good, and I wind up eating 20% losses. Okay, and I'm like, well, damn, I really suck at this game. But I do not suck to the magnitude of having a $500 million investment go to a $14 billion loss. I've never done that. I've never done that. So in that degree, I'm much more successful as an investor. I can eat 20% losses. That's fine.
Yeah. No, it's yeah.
Now, as we move on to the remainder of the Uncle Jeffy updates this week, were you aware that there had been recent discussion of a storage unit that was likely uninvestigated by the FBI, despite them being somewhat aware of a one or multiple storage units that prior to Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in the original 2009 case, he had used to try to get rid of information that he did not want to wind up in the hands of police.
I've heard about it. I think you mentioned it also last time around, but I haven't heard more about it. I'd love to hear it,
So we do have some updates on the storage units here.
So earlier this week, we covered a report by The Telegraph that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly stashed away materials in secret storage lockers in the United States, potential evidence that was reportedly never fully recovered. And we have just learned new information about what one of those storage units may have contained, and this adds just another disturbing dimension to this entire saga. And according to the outlet, this is such a big part, it appears the FBI may have never searched them. So as we talk about, should there be further investigations? Is there evidence against anybody else? Just something to think about, right? Now, according to DOJ documents and reporting from the New York Post, Epstein had paid private investigators to remove items from his Palm Beach, Florida property, including multiple computers, films, pornographic material. And by the way, the timing is key. This was allegedly to hide all of this ahead of a 2005 police raid. Remember, around this time is when he was being investigated after the family of a teenager, a 14-year-old girl, reported that she was molested at his home. 2008, he ends up pleading guilty to solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of prostitution of a minor. This is that sweetheart deal where he avoids the federal charges. By the way, I have to say, if these allegations are true, it raises serious questions of potential liability. Hiding potential evidence where there's a pending criminal case, an active investigation. But now we have to talk about the storage locker. So the items were then reportedly kept at a nearby Palm Beach storage facility. And now an inventory reportedly shows what Epstein seemingly wanted hidden, maybe from authorities, at his Palm Beach property. And this is, again, as he was being investigated on child sex crimes over 20 years ago. And by the way, some of those items detectives reportedly had found receipts for during the raid, but never actually recovered them. So I want to be clear about something. The Telegraph had first reported on the Palm Beach storage locker inventory, but we found the actual document in the Epstein files from an October 2009 email that was sent to Epstein's lawyer, Roy Black, from a member of the private investigation agency that he hired. William Riley is a key member there. And this was roughly 3 months after Epstein was released from that 13-month prison sentence for solicitation charges. But I want to go through this together, okay? And I'm going to warn you right now, some of this is unsettling, to say the least. Okay. Here's how the email begins. On October 7, 2005, investigator Paul Lavery visited the residence of Jeff Epstein and, pursuant to the instructions of attorney Roy Black, removed items of potential evidentiary value from his home. These items were subsequently turned over to investigator William Riley for inventory and safekeeping purposes. By the way, before you even get into the items that were removed, according to the Telegraph, it seems authorities had known that Epstein may have done this because the outlet refers to a 2010 deposition from a civil case that was filed against Epstein by a Jane Doe. We found this transcript in the Epstein files. Here's how this questioning went. So Epstein's asked, prior to the Palm Beach police executing a search warrant on your house in October of 2005, did you direct redacted to remove at least 3 computers from your home? Mr. Pike, form, Jeffrey Epstein answers, though I would like to answer all your questions, Mr. Edwards, my attorneys, at least today, have advised me I must assert my rights under the 6th, 5th, and 14th Amendment. Due process, right against self-incrimination. Question, where are those computers today? Mr. Pike, form, answer, though I would like to answer all your questions, my attorneys have advised me I must assert my rights under the 6th, 5th, and 14th Amendment. Question, isn't it true that within that computer system were the names and telephone numbers of hundreds of underage minor females that you sexually molested? And of course, Epstein says the same kind of response. So I want to go back to the email and see what was apparently inside that storage facility. The items removed from Epstein's house were 3 different computers, including 2 Dells and 1 HP Pavilion. Okay, now before we move on, it is worth noting that copies of 2 of the computer hard drives were apparently recovered by the FBI years later, but again, remains unknown if any of the material in that storage unit was ever found by authorities or if they ever raided it. Moving on, over 2 dozen telephone directories, 1 metal HS 8mm tape with notations, including some photos, floor exercises, 2 jokes, dancing, shower, lingerie, and goodbye. Now I gotta note, hours of footage from the Epstein tapes have been released by the DOJ. You're talking lengthy periods of pornography, alleged victims taking videos in sexual positions, even children. But this specific tape may very well have been missing. I mean, in the files is a redacted email that says the following. Highly responsive material breakdown. Over 1 million images and videos were extracted from Epstein's devices. Approximately 34,000 were marked responsive. Approximately 15 to 20 images of CSAM, child sexual abuse material, less than 1%. Approximately 90% of the files are adult pornography, adult erotica, aged difficult pornography and erotica. In and of itself, it would be pretty disgusting, but you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, so it takes on kind of a different meaning. I want to move on. 3 printed pages titled Individual Directory Listing, Massage, Florida. Okay, we know that massage work has been a common theme throughout Epstein's allegations, right? Court records show that Epstein maintained dedicated massage rooms in multiple residences, spaces that prosecutors say were used in the facilitation of child sex crimes. So the idea of having a masseuse directory, not surprising, very uneasy. Let's continue the inventory. Various different photographs, including 1 black and white photograph on white female lying nude wicker couch, 1 color photograph of white female standing nude in bedroom, 3 color photographs of 2 white females nude in the shower, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female with happy birthday written on it, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of white female, 1 color photograph of partially nude white female, 1 black and white photograph of white female written on back. Jeffrey, it's redacted. You better never forget about me. May 28th, we'll be traveling. Love, heart always, class of 2005. Now we're going to get to the magazine shortly, but throughout our Epstein Files coverage at Sidebar, we have seen a trove of emails between Jeffrey Epstein and redacted individuals where there are sexual pictures that were asked to be sent, okay? And there is a large portion of those photos that were either partially or fully redacted to protect the victims here. But you have to wonder if he ended up printing these pictures out, maybe storing them at these storage facilities. I don't know. I mean, just to give you an idea about this, we did a whole sidebar on the collection of some really gross Jeffrey Epstein emails, including this one. This is from Epstein, 2015. It says, now that I understand, try to take some nude photos, be open, brave, sexy, wild, dance, jump, have fun, live. The response back, okay, I asked my friend, so she will take some sexy photos tonight or tomorrow. You got this response from Jeffrey Epstein. I think that you should take some of yourself first. Now, I want you to be free with yourself. First, I think you should study English, go online, there are many classes, then take the TOEFL test. The photos should not be porn, but should be sexy. Do you watch porn? Redacted, for example? You want to be free without being porn, but laugh, have fun. You're going to be 22, not 14 years old. Just to put that into context for you. Keep going through this. Magazines, including Purely 18, year 2000. Only 18, Barely Legal, Hustlers, January 2000. Now, look, these in and of themselves are not illegal to own, assuming the women are at least 18 years of age, though the one titled barely legal is obviously eyebrow raising at the very least. One book titled Complete Slave, Creating and Living an Erotic, Dominant, Submissive Lifestyle. One book titled Training with Miss Abernathy, a workbook for erotic slaves and their owners. Annual Guide to NYC Erotica, Sexy New York City 2000. 11 different boxes, including labels of sex toys. By the way, when I was thinking of that.
So there you go, Alex. That goes on and continues doing inventories, and that's why I won't belabor just an inventory list here. But there's a lot of things that are supposedly in these storage units that were not part of the Epstein file dump themselves. So the question is raised: did they actually ever raid those storage lockers?
I would like to raise a different suggestion, Gator.
All right.
I think from now on, our Epstein column should be called 50 Shades of Epstein.
Ah.
What do you think?
I mean, you know, that
I think we may have put our finger here.
But
no, what I'm saying is like there's this weird arc where, you know, basically what has been normalized for middle-aged women is kind of like the Epstein archetype, where you have this kind of billionaire who's into like dominance and like, well, it's just wild, man. Like, you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, but I don't think in those novelizations or the fictionalizations that the man looks like Jeffrey Epstein. I do think that the man is somewhat of a more attractive, archetype.
I mean, look, he was old by the end of it, but I think.
Whoa, are you saying that the younger Jeffrey Epstein was somewhat of a looker? Is this
Look, we will have to ask our numerous female members of the audience, I guess, for that one.
Yes, well, we'll have to take a poll at that point and determine whether or not
all 6 of them.
Absent the money, Jeffrey Epstein was a hottie. Have to,
ladies, would you?
A poll.
Be honest. All right.
So that concludes basically the Uncle Jeffy updates that I have for this week, Alex. I don't know if you have any additional Uncle Jeffy stories that you'd like to bring to the table before we move on to some hotter topics.
No, I think I hope we have something more to share from what I'm showing you next week. Okay. But yeah, suffice to say, there are just an infinity of little threads that can be pulled, and they're not uninteresting. They're not uninteresting.
Well, he is the most conspiracy theory generating individual of all time. So I'm sure there's going to be many more threads of conspiracy.
Conspiracy theories and practice. Jeffrey Epstein.
Now,
conspiracy theory and practice. That's it.
Before we dive into Iran, we have a small offhanded comment that Trump made the other day when asked just before the invasion of or the attack on Iran, because we didn't invade technically yet, where he was asked about Cuba, because Cuba has been coming up in the last couple days as some other contention point, some other point of contention, some disagreements and negotiations going back and forth.
No money, they have no anything right now, but they're talking with us, and maybe we'll have a friendly takeover of Cuba. We could very well end up having a friendly takeover of Cuba.
What about the post?
After many, many years, we've had a lot of years of dealing with Cuba. I've been hearing about Cuba since I'm a little boy, but they're in big trouble, and we could very well, something good, I think very positive for the people that were expelled or worse from Cuba that live here. You know, we have people living here that want to go back to Cuba, and they're very happy with what's going on.
So we could have a friendly takeover of Cuba, Alex. I know that only affords a couple interpretations, and all of them positive.
That's right. Yeah, an all-stock merger, or like what?
I don't know. They vote to become the 51st.
There's a hostile takeover.
Right,
Yeah,
but this would be a friendly. This would be a friendly takeover. They just vote to become the 51st state, or vote
or they could just join as a. It could join as a kind of the Vatican part of the Board of Peace global empire, for example, where they become the sovereign base for the
that's
Spectre super empire of sorts.
That's Trump's little offhanded comment. I think like a day or so before we started attacking Iran. Now, Alex. Is it okay to announce now that we were actually sort of in on the invasion and the attack, because it was us last week who said that there would not be an attack, and we were doing so because we know that the Ayatollah listens to this show religiously and gets his security intel from us, and so that when we said that there would not be an attack until some moon issues resolved, that we were misleading him intentionally.
That's right. Yes, religiously, in fact. Yeah. Because he thinks we are Allah, you specifically.
The attack occurred in daylight and had nothing to do with nighttime or the moon. So that's
the interesting part, though, right? Like, because what I said is that there was some mention that the U.S. Army likes to attack at night, and if they do, then they prefer darker nights than brighter nights.
I guess
I suppose one way to defeat that problem is to just do it in broad daylight.
Yes. It's in some circumstances it's more difficult to see the moon in the daytime. So as long as the moon is not there.
That's right. That was the precise condition was, in fact,
all right.
If you can't see the moon, maybe they're coming after you.
All right. So here it was.
It goes back to the lunar base of Zoroastrianism, but it's just too deep.
Here was Trump's sort of announcement / direct message to the Iranian people.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all.
Now, there have been reports today that last portion, the part that was sort of a direct message to people of Iran, was broadcast throughout Iran as reportedly there's indication that the U.S. and Israel in some ways took over the networks for a brief period of time to air such a message. That I've attached that to the space, the reports and sort of evidence that this occurred. I don't know if it's true, but that's the reports that are supposedly coming out.
Gator, I've sent you
yes,
another Trump clip in your DMs. If you care to play it, I think it's the perfect complement to this.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people. So she's a
So, is he now a fan of Liz Cheney? Is that?
Well, he continues to say that there's people who send other people's children to war, that they're not going to fight and their children aren't going to fight. And, you know, they've never fought. Maybe she had bone spurs. I don't know. And, you know, it's so easy to say that from a nicer conditioned room. But now he says, well, you know, some of you are going to die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, basically. So, I don't know. I think there's some lesson there. I'm to convey. I'm not sure exactly what how to distill it, but I mean, I also should mention that a bunch of what he says about the history with Iran is horseshit. Particularly galling is the USS Cole mention, which was Al Qaeda. So now, and who of course has done a ton to get rid of ISIS and Al Qaeda in the Middle East, but Iran. And, you know, you might hate them, you might not like them, you might think they're religious fundamentalists, but they're different religious fundamentalists than the other religious fundamentalists. So, you know, for what it's worth, that is preposterous. Okay, you can blame them for Hezbollah. It's not accurate, but it makes, you know, schematic sense. Like, to blame them for the use of coal is like a whole other level of horseshit that I think was indicative. It's an easy one to see the level of propaganda that was going on there. I mean, another one I would highlight is he said, oh, you know, they gave IEDs to the Iraqi resistance, whatever. Okay. So then arming a proxy force to attack somebody else is now something that's worth being invaded over or attacked or bombed or having your head of state murdered. Okay. Well, you know, Russia might have a few comments about that. But anyway, it's not like we're trying to extract some sort of coherent world model out of this guy. I'm just sort of want to put these things out there in case anybody wants to, you know, understand what was said and how it maps to reality or doesn't. I think I should put these little facts on the record.
You know, I think it winds up being exceptionally complicated, not only because there's you know, already now active conflict and you can't argue yourself out of it regardless of whether or not the justifications that you have just been given are horseshit or not. You can't, there's nothing you can do to undo the situation that you now find yourself in. But then there is also sort of a trap in, I mean, it is a good exercise and it is very important to identify avenues of reasoning and argumentation that are propagandistic in nature, the types that are meant to activate the parts of your brain, sort of the amygdala, right, directly, and try to get you to react based off of the sensations that the words you're hearing make you feel. But it is also sort of a dead end when you talk about sort of the moral equivalence of certain behaviors, because at the end of the day, all countries in the field are going to be engaging in this activity. And if you have an action like we just took now by attacking Iran, we have possibly a myriad of justifications to declare war. Now, don't jump in yet, because I am going to close off
I'm not saying
that section.
I understand what you're saying.
But there was an attempt on the president's life that is reasonably tied back to Iranian activity. And in generic terms, people agree that attempting to kill the leader of the United States is an act of war, a declaration of war. And then we could say that that's
we're not even sure if actually killing the president, the supreme leader of Iran is an act of war.
You're getting
told on Twitter that.
Right, but my point is that we can have 20 reasons that are not as tenable, and then 20 reasons that are, let's say, tenable as justifications for a war, none of which really affect the fact that we all have already taken the kinetic action and we did not go to Congress to authorize it, right? I am personally, this is my personal sentiment, tired of engaging in this activity without having sort of the formal announcement of Congress and the formal deliberation, where there is no immediate danger to the actual homeland, the physical United States and its specific territories, not parts of other countries that we might occupy with a military base or things like that, or entrenched allyships or things like that. There has been enough of the unilateral action that is given then some sort of moral imperative to pick a side or support your side, which of course I'm going to do. I of course don't want the United States to necessarily lose in this conflict, and of course I'm going to have an idealized sort of desire for those in Iran who I might find close affinity to in a idealistic sense about their notions of freedom and their notions of some, let's call it, democracy. I am, of course, going to have a desire for those forces to win out in some sort of conflict like this. The problem especially comes from the fact that now that this action has engaged, we have a immediate destabilization of the governing forces of Iran, which of course is part of the intent. You have services.
I don't think that is evident, by the way. I don't think that's evident as far as I can tell.
I mean, if you're taking some sort of excessive statement that I didn't make,
okay.
About
anyway, I'm just saying I have not seen any evidence of destabilization of the governing mechanisms of Iran.
Well, I mean, there's at a minimum lots of confusion, and there's at a minimum a lot of activity about who is. Well,
we are confused. It doesn't seem that they are confused. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, it's fine. I don't mean to short circuit your argument. I just don't want to go down a reasoning path that is contradicted by the evidence so far. They might be destabilized. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying, like, as far as we know right now, they seem to be still acting coherently as a regime and controlling their armed forces, controlling the streets, hitting back strategically, and taking complex actions as a government.
All right, then modify my statement from what you're having as sort of like a very hard version of it into at least part of the goal is to create that destabilization.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. And when such a destabilization occurs, we have then a extended mission that we are half in and half out on. The president gave the announcement that, that it's the Iranian people's opportunity, right? Where we are giving them this opportunity, and now we are going to give them some sort of support that is at the moment not specified. That unspecified specific support could require us in the future to do what we typically do, which is financially and materially support groups that are not in line with our idealized version of who we would be supporting. Because the groups that are less than ideal are the ones that typically have more of the desire, more of the motivation, and more of the ability to engage in the activity of attack that we want to assist in helping topple the government and bring in a different government, which means that we would be supporting and funding groups that 30 years from now we could wind up having a repeat of saying that we are now these are now the groups that we need to be focused on, and they're the threats. And that is something that
keep in mind the mullahs were preferred by the West over the leftists that were seeming to have the momentum when the Shah was overturned, right? Like the Ayatollah did not, the previous one, the Khamenei, did not come in to Iran with a Aeroflot airliner. He came with an Air France airliner. He was kept safe, protected in Paris, and then he was flown into Iran to take over, which he did. And then he's the most.
The point that I'm trying to the point that I'm trying to sort of hone in on, Alex, is that there is a tendency, particularly on, let's say, my more libertarian side of the perspective, of just being tired of all of this, circumventing Congress, not having a legitimate immediate threat on the homeland, and all of these things. But we're now past that because the action is undertaken.
The die is cast.
And exactly. And so now we are in this zone where my specific communication, my personal message that I am trying to get across, is for people who, let's say, you generally support the activity, that you think that this action is appropriate and that it is something that is going to bring opportunity for good, that you don't find yourself constantly down a path of justifying new questionable decisions because you have already purchased this ticket. That if you pay attention to this unfolding and now all of a sudden we're arguing about proposing to fund groups that are unscrupulous, that you reflect on that and don't just say, well, we have to do that because, the other guys are worse or something like that, that you actually have some outlook of what it is you're constantly supporting, because right now we're in a we break it, we buy it situation. And we can't pretend that we're not in that situation.
Trump's approach is to the innovation. From what I'm told by the people who receive the talking points, or perhaps the people who listen from the people who got the talking points, it's different this time. This time it's different because the Iranians are not Arabs. Okay, have you heard that talking point floating around?
Yeah, they're Persian.
So they're not. Yeah, they're not gonna like collapse into some sort of anarchy, right? Like Shia versus Sunni. Wait. Actually, that one is actually
Iraq. Iraq was a sort of ideologically fractured state that was.
That's right, and Syria too, right? And of course Libya. There's Libya. Yeah, they were also Arabs. I guess they were Bedouins, but they're bad. There's Afghanistan. But they're actually more Persian, and the Pashtuns are actually like more akin to Iranians there. So that's a bit of a problem. Never mind. Put that aside.
Is the central part that are you either doubting or just saying there's reason,
and they're going to self-organize into something better, and so therefore we're not going to have to get involved. All that's needed is to take off the head of the snake. Basically, I was told in this exact term that Trump found easy mode. Does this make your hairs stand up?
Well,
Trump found easy mode.
As you can tell by what I just said, I'm already skeptical of the everything.
I get it, and I appreciate your position. I'm just sort of as I do when this stuff happens, I try to
sort of dissect the narrative scaffolds that are coming out. So the conceptual framing that is being sold to people to buy this, to fall for it again, so that then they can get the award. So apparently this time we're told that, the Iranians are a different kind of people, and therefore Trump found easy mode by just bombing the regime. Whatever happens, though, let's say you take out all the big arms, okay? The small arms are still in the hands of the IRGC. Mm-hmm. So they're still going to be the ones in charge. There is no army that is on the ground that can wrest the regime off its monopoly on violence in the Iranian space, unless, of course, you start to arm various various sort of movements, right? The Kurds or the Balukis or the Azeris or whatever, to try to create at least some peripheral pressure on the center. Which brings me to one of my favorite articles that's been written about this in the Wall Street Journal, of all places, that says a fractured Iran might not be so bad. Anyway.
Well, that's certainly priming. That's certainly priming the expectations there. Well, maybe it's in the best interest that we let's create it as a model United States of Iran over there, and we can have 50 individual sub-states of Iran, and that can how we
can form a continuum with Syria and Iraq of just little emirates. I'm just saying all this because I just see even some sort of Iranian people that I know that are real people. They're not shills. Like, there's some people I follow for other contexts who. Sorry, let me complete the thought.
The Iranian diaspora,
believing that, like,
the Iranian diaspora is a lot more pro this activity than.
Depends who we talk to. But just let me complete. Yeah, there are some people in the diaspora who seem to believe that as soon as you take off, the top tier of the regime, Iran is going to become the United Arab Emirates or whatever. It's going to become Dubai, right? And I just want to say to people who think that Israel is attacking Iran in order to make it rich and powerful, that you were dropped on your head as a child. Wake up. They're not seeking to create an even more powerful regional enemy. They are. That is not a thing that is happening right now. Should it happen, it will be by accident. But I think the chances there are quite low.
Well, if I may hope for an accident like that, I would be
sure.
If I can be afforded the ability to have hope.
There was. Sure, it's like the other guy
without being accused of being delusional, without being accused of being delusional over it.
It's like the other guy who was here last week who was saying that we should be out in the streets rebelling against the Epstein files. And it's like, I mean, it could end up somewhere good, but the odds are it's not. Getting the mob activated is generally not a path. Wealth and prosperity.
Speaking of various groups where I had mentioned that in general, it seems like the Iranian diaspora is generically optimistic about this activity. The Washington Post here reports that Trump's attack on Iran risks alienating war-weary supporters. President Donald Trump's major attack on Iran has rattled parts of the coalition that twice delivered him the White House, a fracture that could spell trouble for a divided GOP as the midterm elections approach. The strikes, which killed Iran's supreme leader, followed a visible buildup of the U.S. forces in the Middle East, but Trump's decision to carry them out nonetheless surprised some of his supporters who had expected the self-described anti-interventionist president to stop short of the direct attack. 19-year-old Cooper Jacks said his phone lit up Saturday with messages from fellow Republicans in disbelief at the U.S. attack on Iran, a reaction that reflected not just surprise at Trump's decision, but anxiety about what a new conflict could demand of younger Americans. Quote, "We often have politicians that are way past the age to be able to fight these wars, being all ready to say, yeah, go fight it, and then that burden falls on my generation," said Jacks, an officer with the Walker County Republican Party in Georgia. For some voters, Trump's decision marked a clear break from the isolationist posture that once defined his political appeal. While the more hawkish wing heralded the opening salvo, Others in the party accused Trump of betraying the populist ideology that propelled him to power. In interviews and on social media, many Trump supporters, both prominent conservatives and rank-and-file voters, were careful to withhold final judgment until seeing whether the president could swiftly end the conflict he started. Others reaffirmed their support for Trump. Ultimately, the Iran strike poses a test of how much war Trump's coalition will tolerate from a president who promised to end them. The base is solid with President Trump, and they want him to succeed, said John McLaughlin, a longtime Trump pollster. It's about national security and stopping Iran, a terrorist state, from getting nuclear weapons and killing any more Americans. The political stakes of the military action are heightened by the approaching midterm elections, when the party of a sitting president often faces stiff headwinds. Polls show Trump's approval ratings at 39%, the lowest since January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Republicans are worried they could lose control of Congress. Now, Alex, what if January 6, 2021 was the training grounds for this Iranian operation? Are you optimistic that we failed January 6, 2021 to overthrow the U.S. government then? But maybe perhaps we've learned how to do it now, and this is what we are taking to the Iranian people.
Yeah, the two sides involved in that conflict, I fear that the other side has learned more than the side you're talking about.
Now,
the them is now stronger. Let's put it that way.
There is someone who is very critical of Trump who is also surprisingly upset over this action.
I know you support these strikes, but obviously there's going to be a lot of the president's supporters and people in the United States who listen to what he said on the campaign trail and certainly what he said in his first term and say, this is the president who said he was against regime change in the Middle East, that he was against starting new wars. What do you make of what would you say to them tonight?
Well, I think they made the mistake of believing that Donald Trump had a consistent philosophy, national security strategy, and policy, which he doesn't. My only regret is that I wasn't persuasive enough in the first term to get to this point.
That is everyone's favorite mustache, John Bolton, Alex, who is upset with Donald Trump for not allowing him to do this sooner.
Yeah, he has some minor disagreements about Trump trying to put him in prison, but besides that, he's totally on board with the bombing Iran part. So
but he's not in the room. He's very disgruntled about this. He wanted to be in the room as it happened because he wanted it to be his baby, his pet project.
I think we need to update the quote I've heard attributed to Tom Woods. He tends to say, "No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain." It appears that no matter who you vote for, you get John Bolton. So there we are.
Well, maybe it was just basically a new standard on facial grooming that caused him to be ousted, and that it's really not an ideological difference. I don't see too many mustaches. Did he shave the mustache? No, he still has the mustache. That's the point.
I see. Yes, that was the problem.
I don't see that many mustaches inside of the administration right now, particularly that prominent.
Yeah, that's it.
Now,
that's the problem.
Now I see a large number of MAGA supporters who are for these attacks, who were against, the forever war statement. They were against the idea of the forever wars. And I'm seeing they sort of believe that this is going to be a very short-term kinetic action, and that the mission objectives, whatever exactly they are at this point, are going to be achieved in short order, and that this won't be a prolonged affair. I'm very skeptical of that position. My concerns with the first
12-day war is
well, that was my concerns with the first one. This was not over, and that this was exactly the type of scenario we were going to find ourselves in, and that anything short of total regime change was not going to be tenable. Whether there were off ramps that were not taken, I'm not sure. I can't speak to those. I can only say whether or not I believe that they were real, and I don't believe that they were real in the sense that they were realistic, meaning there could have been plenty of things offered that were just knowingly not going to be accepted, and therefore leading to this sort of outcome.
I think we also have to mention before we move on that this is the second time the U.S. attacked Iran in the middle of negotiations, and I don't know like how people feel about this. To me, and I don't know. I mean, at this point, I have to sort of check whether this is like a cultural thing, but like from being from the Eastern Mediterranean, this is like it is hugely dishonorable to attack somebody that you're negotiating with in the middle of negotiations while pretending that we're going to have a next meeting soon. It is it feels endgamey in that the U.S. does not appear to care about whether in the future it's going to need to do other negotiations. Anyway.
Well, if you were to take this as an example and say that this is what people should expect from now on, you can say that it makes the first few rounds of negotiations more vital to find an agreement in, and therefore, does set
I think
an
you should.
that
if you want to go down that lane, the mediator, the foreign minister, I believe, of Oman, who was doing the conversation between the U.S. and Iran, he was sort of mediating it, took the extraordinary step of going on U.S. media and said that the Iranians had offered something that was far beyond what the JCPOA was. They had offered to effectively have no stockpiling, which of course prevents enrichment even in principle. And I think he did that in order to put on the record that even though it seemed that the U.S. was just not going to take yes for an answer, that yes was offered. So I think it's important to understand, if we're going to say that it's their fault again for getting attacked because they didn't, make any progress or whatever, because I've heard that line. I'm not saying you're saying that, but I have heard that being said in the environment. That appears to be false.
Do you have that in a sort of very concrete?
Yes, I will. Yes. Yeah. If you look for, I mean, I can find it for you. I'll send it to you. Do your next thing, and I'll send it over your way.
Okay, sure. So one sort of kerfluffle being caused in the mix of this, we can call it attack and confusion, is that Iran has responded by attacking what is perceived to be a little bit haphazardly and attacking places like Oman, who do not feel that they should be attacked or part of the attacks or in response. So Al Jazeera, multiple Arab states that host U.S. assets targeted in Iran retaliation. Iran has targeted United States assets across the Gulf Arab states in retaliation for a huge joint attack on Iran by the U.S. and Israel, sparking fears of a regional conflagration. The Iranian government on Saturday confirmed its attacks on several targets, according to the Fars news agency, including Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, where U.S. air bases are hosted. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard claimed all Israeli and U.S. military targets in the Middle East have been struck by powerful blows of Iranian missiles. This operation will continue relentlessly until the enemy is decisively defeated, it said. All U.S. assets throughout the region are considered legitimate targets for Iran's army, it added. Iran's deputy foreign minister, Hamid Ghamari, told Al Jazeera that Iran has the right to defend itself and regrets any humanitarian loss caused by the current military escalation. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in a letter sent to United Nations Security Council and Secretary General Antonio Guterres that Iran would continue to exercise its right of self-defense decisively without hesitation until the aggression ceases fully and unequivocally. In the United Arab Emirates, at least one person was killed in Abu Dhabi, the UAE capital, after several missiles launched from Iran were intercepted, according to the country's state news agency, which provided no further details. Meanwhile, a fire broke out near a hotel in Dubai's Palm Islands attraction, with huge plumes of smoke seen from a distance as multiple blasts echoed throughout the day. The Dubai media office later confirmed an incident in a building in the Palm Jumeirah area that resulted in a fire and 4 people injured. Bahrain said a missile attack targeted the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, which are hosted in the capital, Manama. The government called it a treacherous attack and a blatant violation of the kingdom's sovereignty and security. Later, footage circulating on social media appeared to show an Iranian Shahad drone smashing through a tower block located near the headquarters, setting the building ablaze. The Interior Ministry said several residential buildings in Manama had been hit, reporting on X that civil defense was engaged in firefighting and rescue operations at affected sites. Kuwait's defense ministry said that the Ali Assalam airbase came under attack by a number of ballistic missiles, all of which were intercepted by Kuwaiti air defense systems. The official Kuna news agency cited a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs saying that Kuwait maintains its right to defend itself. In Qatar, the defense ministry said it has thwarted attacks on the country in accordance with a pre-approved security plan, intercepting all missiles before they reach the country's territory. A statement by the Saudi Foreign Ministry confirmed that Iran targeted Riyadh and the kingdom's eastern region, adding the attacks were repelled. These attacks cannot be justified under any pretext or in any way, and they came despite the Iranian authorities knowing that the kingdom had confirmed that would not allow its airspace and territory to be used to target Iran, it added. So there's more places like that. That's going to cause Iran some trouble in getting the region to, let's say, give pushback.
Hitting American bases that are attacking it is going to cause a trouble with everybody else who's hosting
Saudi Arabia did not allow its airspace or territory to be used to target Iran, as they just said there.
But I sent you the clip from the Omani foreign minister, but I also sent you another clip which was incredible and addresses
you did just poo-poo something that I thought was relevant to the statement that you just made, because I mean it was directly related. So if the comment is that Iran is
of the 15 countries that were attacked, you agree that 14 were attacking them, but one wasn't. And yes, we can dig into whether it exactly wasn't, or maybe facilities were used but not missiles fired or whatever. And I don't think
so.
That's relevant, because
what angle are you responding to on this? Because it sounds like you're responding to a claim that wasn't made, or even a tone that wasn't made. Which was some sort of.
What I'm saying is, if the U.S. is attacking, the U.S. and Israel are attacking Iran, then I think it's very reasonable for Iran to attack their bases, which happen to be hosted by other countries. One second. Happen to be hosted by other countries. Those other countries are going to have to be understanding about this because they're hosting the bases of America.
Now, you're saying they're going to have to be understanding about this, but they actually don't have to be understanding about it, and they can say that they can react however they want.
Sure.
I mean, like...
Sure.
I mean, I agree with you on the sentiment that Iran is going to retaliate and going to respond, and that people should expect that type of response. But for the attack,
imagine if it couldn't, right? Like, imagine if you said, "Oh, we're safe because we put our bases on a different country and they didn't attack you." It's like, okay, so what? Like, I guess we're just supposed to sit there and take it.
No, listen, I agree with the idea that, but for the attack by the United States, Iran wouldn't be attacking these sites, and that these sites, if they host valid U.S. targets, in the sense that a U.S. military base is a valid target, even if they were not used at the time to host part of the initial assault, that they could hypothetically be used in the future, and therefore Iran might be induced to attack them as a preemptive measure, saying, like, we're not going to allow these bases we know that exist to potentially be used strategically in a fight against us. However, the countries themselves are not blaming the U.S. for the initial attack in Iran's response, which matters. I mean, it matters if the countries that host the United States military bases side with the U.S. in the matter. It is very impactful, regardless of whether you can flippantly say, well, what Iran is, allowed to respond.
I just don't think it's surprising. Of course they will side with the U.S. That's the whole point. Because they're U.S. allies, because they're hosting bases. Like, of course they're going to say, oh, that's terrible. Oh, I can't believe you just did that. But it's uninformative. That's what you'd expect.
Would it not be better for Iran if the states that hosted the United States military bases were against the mission.
They were. As far as reports that we have, they were lobbying for this not to happen. Presumably because
if they then
expected to be hit.
If they then change their position.
They didn't change. I don't think they said, good, hit them harder. They just said, wow, that's really bad that you hit our territory. Okay. I don't know. I don't. Yeah. I think I've made my. We can disagree on this. I think I've made my position understood. I think we don't need to go much deeper. I just don't find it. I find it like the least surprising thing in the history of time that the people who are hit by rocket attack are condemning the people who
don't
hit them.
Believe that surprising was something that I had framed.
No, but surprise is something that I it's worth talking about, something that is surprising. If it's not surprising, it's like, yeah, well, and they came out and said, oh, you shouldn't have hit us. Okay, fine, whatever. Moving on. That's not, it's not something that is like changing the calculus was unpredictable. Iran could not have expected this. And what are they going to do now? This is clearly part of the planning. They're like, yeah, we're going to have to hit them. And yes, those guys are going to moan, but that is part of the planning.
All right.
Anyway, I did send you the Omani guy if you care to hear it, and I also sent you another one about these bases that was fascinating and it kind of intersects U.S. news media culture with this topic that we were just talking about. So if you want to play the second one.
The second one was what I was one clip that I did not get to procure, but I was sort of referring to, which is where the Iranian foreign minister was responding to an attack on Oman. Is that correct? Is that what this clip is? And that he was saying that that was unintentional.
I don't think it was Oman.
That there was a similar clip. So if that's not the clip that you just sent me, that's what I'm.
Yeah, play the one I sent you. I think it's kind of funny.
So for clarity, you said that your missiles cannot reach the United States by design, that you do not want to reach the United States, but you also said it would be necessary as a defensive vehicle that you could if necessary. So to be clear, are you committing that Iran is not and will not build missiles that would have the capability to reach the United States?
I can confirm, yes.
Sir, if that's a red line for you, why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us. They are U.S. military, installations, facilities, bases who are attacking us. We are under attack. Why don't you, recognize this fact? We are under the attack by U.S. by U.S. forces in the region. So we have every right to defend ourselves. And how to defend ourselves? We attacked, the U.S. bases. This is obvious. This is a very simple fact. And I hope that, and I'm sure that people would understand that. We are not the one who attacked Americans. We are only defending ourselves.
I would have agreed with your response to me had I phrased anything in a similar fashion to those hosts.
I didn't say it as a response to you. I'm just saying it's the ridiculousness of a U.S. news host being like, so why are you hitting those bases?
Those two NBC news hosts. That sort of question is sort of preposterous. Like, during the first attack, the news was spreading that the U.S. and Israel had taken out, several layers of top commanders, and that it was their most advanced, commanders in Iran, the most sophisticated, blah, 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 sort of propagandizing the success of the attack, which might have been semi-accurate. But the point was that, this initial wave of the attack last year had taken out, a whole bunch of really adept leaders and had left them sort of, leaderless. And then Iran's response was a wider sort of attack across the land of Israel. And then it was decried that, well, look, they're attacking indiscriminately or whatnot. They're not really attacking legitimate targets or whatnot. And I said, well, you just told me that they took out all the best leadership, so now they just have the schlubs, and you told me that they took out all the best equipment, so now they have the shittier equipment. They're going to respond. So if you supposedly take out the best leaders and the best equipment, they have the shittier leaders and the shittier equipment to respond with. This is what you get.
Yeah. Also, what we learned later is that none of that was actually the
like
hits
I
that
said,
Israel sustained were quite substantial. But you are finding a very good internal contradiction in the propaganda. Yes.
So my point goes that they're going to respond. If you're going to perform an initial attack, you don't really get to be significantly indignant about the response. Indignancy is not something that you get to be afforded.
You raise a good point where we might actually be able to say something that's interesting and not well covered, which is that, as far as I can tell from all the reports I can find, it really did seem to be legitimately that Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapon because of the religious edict, aka fatwa, that was issued by the now deceased supreme leader supreme, if you like, of Iran, Khamenei, who's now gone. So there is a very real possibility that the very act of taking him out and having a younger, perhaps more hardline successor come in place, and maybe they'll take that one out and the next guy will take his place, whatever. Point being, the kind of regime change, quote unquote, or regime sort of turnover that they might cause very well could, and you can see the logic of it. It's not exactly sort of hard to understand the reasoning that might lead them to actually developing nuclear weapons if they're left standing by the end of this. Because nobody's attacking North Korea right now.
That argument was also used after the attack last year. That now that we've attacked, they're going to be more interested in building a bomb. So
I know, but the key element here is that the specific Ayatollah that had issued the religious edict is now killed.
That does modify
the person who was cited as the actual barrier, the human barrier to them developing to them developing a nuclear weapon has been removed. So, and I'm not saying that this means they will develop nuclear weapons, but I am saying that there are a lot of theorists, geopolitical theorists, that are saying that really is their only option if they want to stick around. So, it might be that new leadership takes that view.
Well, in line with that sort of as a lead-in, in Khamenei's absence, pragmatist Larijani emerges as a power broker in Iran. And now I do find these stories kind of humorous in the sense that it's been 24 at most 36 hours now. So someone emerging as a power broker is they haven't had even time to wake up or brush their teeth or something.
You remember Larijani, right? We talked about him a few weeks back, right? Yeah. So you are well prepared.
But I'm saying to talk about someone who's emerging in the aftermath of something that occurred just a few hours ago, that's putting all hands on deck. It's what he's emerging. He hasn't had time to even wake up. Take a proper crap, come on. Veteran Iranian politician Ali Larijani, who said on Sunday a temporary leadership council will be set up after an airstrike killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, reemerged last year as one of the most powerful figures in the security hierarchy. He has been managing a broad portfolio from nuclear negotiations to Tehran's regional ties to its violent suppression of internal unrest. An establishment insider
for our American audience, you can imagine him as the Jared Kushner. Sorry,
that's a very interesting way of describing someone.
That's a bold move, Cotton. I'm joking.
Figuring out any given organization's Jared Kushner. An establishment insider
doing this. Gator, I think you've hit on a at least a speaking tour worth of a business book.
Who's the Iranian sloppy Steve Bannon? Who's the Iranian sloppy Steve Bannon?
Oh no!
The Iranian Jeffrey Epstein. An establishment insider who hails from one of the country's leading clerical families, Larijani has been overseeing Iran's effort to reach a nuclear deal with the United States, just a month after Washington sanctioned him in January for allegedly directing a deadly crackdown on anti-government protests. He accused the United States and Israel of trying to plunder and disintegrate Iran and warned secessionist groups of a harsh response if they attempted any action, state television said on Sunday, nearly 24 hours after they began a wave of attacks in Iran. Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff Adlorham Mousavi was also killed in strikes, broadcaster Iran TV said. Appointed in August as Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, Larijani has held senior jobs throughout a career marked by loyalty to Khamenei and a reputation for pragmatic relations with the system's often rival factions. His status as a trusted Khamenei strategist was underscored last month by a trip to mediator Oman to prepare for indirect nuclear talks with the U.S. as Washington built up its military forces in the Middle East to try to force concessions from Iran ahead of the strikes. Larijani had also made several trips to key ally Moscow in recent months to discuss a range of security ties in a further sign of his return to high-level diplomacy. Larijani, who had an earlier stint heading the SNSC 20 years ago, resumed its leadership following last year's 12-day air war between Iran and Israel that was joined by the U.S., returning formally to the heart of Iran's security establishment. Some of his public statements on the nuclear issue struck a pragmatic tone. In my view, this issue is resolvable, Larijani told Oman state television last month, referring to the talks with the U.S. If the Americans' concerns that Iran should not move towards acquiring a nuclear weapon, that can be addressed. But in the wake of January's outpouring of anti-government anger, his Security Council role was denounced by Washington. According to a U.S. government announcement detailing sanctions against him and other officials in response to the crackdown, Larijani was at the forefront of efforts to crush the series of demonstrations that swept Iran in January. Larijani was one of the first Iranian leaders to call for violence in response to the legitimate demands of the Iranian people, a U.S. Treasury statement said on January 15th, saying Larijani had acted at Khamenei's behest. I don't understand why the Treasury would be issuing that sort of statement, but that's okay. I don't understand a lot of things lately. Right?
Well, the Treasury is what's his name? Oh my God, the guy who said that they had issued an attack on the Iranian currency. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, so it's very involved in the whole attack on Iran.
Well, rights groups say thousands of people were killed in a crackdown on the protests, worst domestic unrest in Iran since the era of its 1979 Islamic Revolution. Like other Iranian officials, Larijani expressed understanding for demonstrations staged in protest at economic hardship, but he condemned armed actions he alleged were fomented by Iran's archenemy Israel. Popular protests must be completely separated from terrorist similar groups, state media reports published on January 10th quoted him as saying. The rioters are an urban quasi-terrorist group, he was quoted as saying on January 26th. A former member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, Larijani served as chief nuclear negotiator from 2005 to 2007, defending what Tehran says is its right to enrich uranium. He once likened European incentives to abandon nuclear fuel production to exchange a pearl for a candy bar. Back then, Iranian analysts said he sought to persuade the West through diplomacy and was regarded as a pragmatist. The U.S. and Israel believe Iran aspires to build a nuclear weapon that could threaten Israel's existence. Iran says its nuclear program is purely peaceful. Larijani was a parliament speaker from 2008 to 2020. During that posting, Iran struck a nuclear deal with 6 world powers in 2015 after almost 2 years of delicate negotiations. President Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from the hard-fought agreement during his first term. So Larijani woke up and was emerging as a power broker in the aftermath, according to Reuters. There's the update on people who are cropping up to the top here.
Have you seen the tweet of, the reports, or maybe it's a statement by Trump himself, that he is expecting a 4-week operation?
Well, not that following laws is exactly something that we can expect right now, but is there not a hypothetical statutory limit to his ability to authorize action without further authorization? That would
yes, if there was an emergency, I think he's allowed to do 60 days plus 30 days for withdrawal. But there's no emergency. So what are we talking about? But I want to read you the statement because it's fantastic. It says, Trump reveals a potential timeline for the war with Iran. It's always been a 4-week process. We figured it would be 4 weeks or so. It's always been about a 4-week process. So as strong as it is, it's a big country. It'll take 4 weeks or less. I'm attaching it to the space. It's from Disclosed TV, so make it that way you will. So 4 weeks. He's driving home the point now of 4 weeks, which tells me that whatever short-term plan they had that it might be over in like 24 hours is not working out. So now they have receded to plan B of plan B of plan B of plan B, which is this is going to keep going for a while.
I have agreed to talk, from The Atlantic. One day after launching strikes on Iran that killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and embroiled the region in war, President Trump told me this morning that the country's new leadership wants to talk with him and that he plans to do so. Quote, they want to talk and I have agreed to talk, so I will be talking to them. That's a very, very eloquent way of putting it.
So you think they're talking then? Is there going to be any talking involved in the talking?
They should have done it sooner. They should have given what was very practical and easy to do sooner. They waited too long, Trump told me in a phone call from his Mar-a-Lago resort shortly before 9:30 a.m. Asked whether his conversation with the Iranians would happen today or tomorrow, Trump responded, I can't tell you that. He noted that some of the Iranians involved in negotiations in recent weeks were no longer alive. Most of those people are gone. Some of the people we were dealing with are gone because that was a big hit, he told me. They should have done it sooner, Michael. They should have made a deal. They should have done it sooner. They played too cute. Yesterday morning, in a video posted on social media, Trump called on the people of Iran to rise up against the current regime once the bombing campaign ended. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want, so let's see how you respond, he said. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. I asked Trump whether he was willing to prolong the U.S. bombing campaign against Iran to support a popular uprising if one unfolds. Quote, will they continue to get support if it takes some time to overthrow the regime, I asked. Trump was non-committal. Quote, I have to look at the situation at the time it happens, Michael. You can't give an answer to that question. But the president also expressed confidence that a successful uprising was coming, noting the signs of celebration in the streets of Iran and supportive gatherings of expatriate Iranians in New York and Los Angeles. Quote, that is going to happen. You are seeing that, and I think it's going to happen. A lot of people are extremely happy over there and in Los Angeles and many other places, he told me. In addition to pro-regime change celebrations in several major cities, large anti-war protests have also been held, many of them just a few blocks away. Trump told me he was pleased with the Iranian people's reaction so far, quote, knowing it's very dangerous, knowing I've told everybody to stay in place, I think it's a very dangerous place right now, he told me. The people over there are shouting in the streets with happiness, but at the same time, there are a lot of bombs coming down. That's very true, Donnie. That's a conundrum. For years, the U.S. intelligence community has tracked and disrupted Iranian-led assassination plots against U.S. officials, including Trump inside the United States. I asked him whether he had any indication of renewed Iranian threats against the U.S. homeland since the start of the attack. I don't want to tell you that, he said. Soon after our conversation, U.S. military officials announced that 3 U.S. service members were killed in the operation and 5 more were seriously wounded, the first known American casualties of the campaign. Trump told me he expects the attack on Iran will not disrupt Republican efforts before his fall's midterm elections to convince voters that his administration is focused on delivering economic benefits for the country. Quote, we have the greatest economy we've ever had, he told me. The word isn't out yet. The word isn't out because people like you don't write about it properly, but the economy is ready to go through the roof, and it already is in many cases. But now we have to repair the roof. Donnie, if it goes through the roof, we now have a hole in the roof. Trump argued that the attack's effect on oil markets, which reopened tonight, would likely be less disruptive on American pocketbooks than some analysts have predicted, given the early success of the operation. This could have been a huge price increase with respect to oil if things went wrong, he told me. So we'll see what happens, he added, before pivoting back to his decision to attack Iran for the second time in June. People have wanted to do this for 47 years. They've killed people for 47 years, and now it's reversed on them. So there's the Atlantic's report on Donnie's update there. Now, Donnie gave an update on Truth Social a little bit ago that says, I have just been informed that we have destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships, some of them relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea. Also, in a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters. Other than that, their Navy is doing very well, President Donald J. Trump. We did not get a thank you for your attention in this matter at the end of that that post on Truth Social. We just got a signature of President Donald J. Trump.
I would like to read you something from Ynet News, which I think is decoding the confusing messaging that's coming from Trump. So Ynet is an Israeli news outlet. I think this is important to understand. Says Trump seeks swift end to Iran operation. Opinion: the killing of Iran's supreme leader is a major intelligence and military feat, but Tehran's regime has not collapsed. The U.S. official, via a mediator, proposed an immediate ceasefire. Iran rejected it outright as Trump looks for a quick exit. Yep, make of that what you will.
Well, what is your take, Alex?
I think it's true. I think Iran understands now that accepting the ceasefire in the 12-day war was read in Israel and the U.S. as a sign of weakness, and that if they want to have any amount of peace moving forward, they are going to have to extract a real serious cost, and that accepting another quick end after what has transpired right now is amounts to suicide. So come what may, they understand that they just can't do this again, where they enter another stupid round of like, oh, maybe, yeah, they were obliterated. No, they were not obliterated. No, they're most evil people on the planet. You know, oh, what about what happened in 1979? Oh, what happened in 1983? It's just like Groundhog Day. So they're like, no, fuck this. Like, we're duking it out. If you run out of interceptors, which is quite likely, or if you got some other trick up your sleeve, bring it on. Let's sort this out now, because we're just not going to keep doing this for, until you grind us down slowly by mowing the lawn every 6 months or so.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered enough that we could for this week, given that this is all very, very new and that there's lots of moving parts and things still going to settle, and that there's a lot that we...
Should we open the floor and hear what others have to say?
We can certainly do so, sir. If you want to go ahead and invite people up to speak.
Whoever's happy to speak their mind. We have quite a big audience, and
we have a sizable audience, which makes it a little bit contentious because we're only going to be able to permit a handful of people to come up to speak to keep this.
Maybe we can put it this way: we can make available like fairly short slots and extensible at our own our own desire. But if anybody wants to come up and have their say, they're more than welcome to do so. But please don't ask us to. The last guy who asked us to go out on the streets and protest got kicked out. So maybe don't.
You're a little bit quicker to hit the ban button than I am, but
I am. I promise I'll try to be patient. How about that? I can't guarantee anything, but I'll make a very good effort to be accepting and liberal.
Well, I think other than perhaps some comments we get a request to speak, that kind of is going to tail end the Iran news for this week, because there's not much more that will illuminate, I don't think, the situation outside of what we've covered exactly, because it's going to take an entire week of things to sort of set before there's useful extractable information, I believe, out there. Because right now it's an open-ended question of how many days this is going to have a main attack phase. Who is going to be attacking whom in the short term, and I mean the other Arab states, if any of them choose to get involved. So I think that what we've covered so far, unless you're aware of anything else we need to cover on that topic, I think we've exhausted this week's news on it.
Mm-hmm.
If I have one question for you, Alex, now that we are in this situation, what is your hope that happens if you had the ability to sort of request a particular sequence of steps that would yield some sort of outcome?
Look, my side in all this is the civilians. Okay, the peoples of the world. If you want me to put it a little cheesily, I suppose. But I think what's best for both the U.S. And its people and Iran and its people is that the U.S. and its friends, if you like to call it that, stop meddling. Because, again, it's extremely important to understand the Ayatollahs would not be there but for meddling by foreign powers, including the U.S. and the U.K. And others. So to that extent, I think a problem that, you don't solve the problem by continuing to do the thing you did before, which is continuing to meddle and bomb and all of those things that led to a hardline regime being installed in place. So at the same time, I think for the American people, like their resources have to start at some point being devoted inwards to the many real problems that exist here, and not in trying to help Netanyahu accomplish his, as he said in a message that I saw today, the objective he's had for 40 years, which, if my math is correct, puts the beginning of this whole plan, according to him, back to 1986. So I don't think that's the business of the American people or their desire. This war has apparently had 20% favorability, which is a new low for American wars. Usually they start popular and become unpopular later. So yeah, it's my hope is that in some way that is as less bruising as possible, there becomes a clear message to the U.S. sort of elites that there is a limit to what they can do. They're learning that in Ukraine. I hope they'll learn that again in Iran. And at some point it sinks in that they're much better off focusing and investing here rather than continuing to meddle there. Will that happen? Probably not.
Well, I join you in hoping for as minimal of loss of life as possible, because this is not. We get enthusiastic when we see military equipment function, and we don't see the outcomes on the other side as much. And seeing the outcomes really can harm people's psyches, so of course people are going to avoid it. It's not pleasant to look at, but the degree to which you can separate your let's say enthusiasm over large explosions being cool and ground that in whether or not you truly believe the activity that you are engaged in is correct logically, morally, and that the objectives have that you understand the objectives first, but that you also have a reasonable expectation that they can be achieved with as minimal loss of innocent life as possible. I would ask that you just try to separate the excitement you get from watching war porn, where you play the Danger Zone soundtrack in your head as you watch the airplane, the F. I'm even forgetting the names of these
F-35s now. F-22s or 35s, probably. That's what's
there was the F-47 that Trump said that he would change the name of if he didn't like the way that it performed, because he didn't want 47 to be attached to it. But I was grasping for F-46. I was grasping for F-16, but I couldn't remember if it was 15 or 16. I'm having one of those days.
Both exist. The 16s are quite popular.
So I'm just saying, try to resist the urge to allow the excitement that you feel when you see cool things.
Wait, did they call it F-47 because of Trump being the 47th president?
Well, that's what he said. He said in one of his speeches when we played when we played his WEF speech. I think it was the WEF speech. He went on this rambling tangent about the F-47, and he said, I don't know why they've named it 47, but if I don't like it, if I don't think it's good enough, I'm going to ask them to change it.
Yeah, name it F-46 so that it's Sleepy Joe's plane. That's right.
Yeah, it's the Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, that's right. Got it. Mm-hmm. Totally reasonable.
But anyway,
stuff.
anyway, try to resist the urge to tie in desire for this action to occur with the excitement you might see from some of the war porn, because it's really not good to cross those streams. You can think that the activity is necessary for whatever ends that you believe are the actual ends, and separate it from the excitement and exuberance of something that can cause unknown people intense amounts of devastation. That's the only thing I can really. And
actually, just to maybe wrap it up with a bow a little bit, I don't know if you'll agree with this or if we'll open a new round of debate, but I'm particularly annoyed by the people who are saying this is not really a war. This is not really whatever. When for well and good that if the shoe was on the other foot and exactly the same kind of attacks that are happening to Iran were happening to the United States, this would probably cause like a century of war going the other way. Okay, and nobody would be questioning if this is an act of war or maybe it's like a limited bombardment.
Well, there would be a large number. There would be a large number of people who would also be celebrating if Trump was taken out. Like to be large number.
Sure, and I'm sure that then that footage will be getting transmitted to Iran or whoever is doing the attacking, and they'll say, "There, you see,
we're liberating the United States from Donald Trump."
Of course, that's right. Yes, they already had their No Kings protest.
I do want to stress though. I do want to stress though, there is a limit necessarily to the symmetry, because yes, while the narratives will be similar, that doesn't mean that all narratives are false, right? Like that doesn't mean that
I'm not saying anything about narratives. I'm saying if this exact same actions that are being taken, I'm making a definitional argument. If you do not define this as war, that the U.S. is not at war, it's not, applying war to Iran right now. Just think of it how it would be the other way, and consider yourself, whether you have consistent definitions. Because unfortunately, for me right now, where I'm standing, the next election looks like, and thank God I don't have to vote, but to the degree that I have to support somebody on Twitter or whatever, right? It's the people who think that boys are girls on the one side, and the people who think that war is peace is on the other. So that is the retarded situation we're in. Go on.
Well, yeah, I just listen. There's going to be people who think that this is the right move, and obviously a large number of people who are tired of war in general, and I can't decide that for each individual person. I am personally, tired of this type of activity and similar, striking a similar sort of vibe as you against the constant meddling and overthrowing of different governments, because each government that gets in is not exactly the way that we want it to, be behaving. It doesn't cooperate exactly the way we like it. I'm sort of tired of that, but that doesn't mean that this operation to some degree is automatically without merit. I'm not saying that I have a strong merit to give you, but that doesn't mean that an argument can't be found. And
it's all about allowing the people to make their choice in Iran, so long as the choice is the one that
we would probably have a very narrow set of choices that we would be okay with.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're okay, Alex, I think that puts a tail end on the Iran news for today. All right. So since we have a large number of possibly new listeners, this show is not specifically about foreign affairs or military conflict, because if things were afforded nicely, we wouldn't have military conflict to fill a large amount of the show with. But we do cover a large number of topics, and so it can be somewhat unpredictable. But we are going to move on now, Alex, for a little bit as we round out the show to some tech news. And this one here is man accidentally gains control of 7,000 robot vacuums. Software engineers' earnest efforts to steer this new.
Oh, yes.
Software engineers.
Go ahead.
You didn't, but I'm glad that we thought to include it both at the similarly. Software engineer's earnest effort to steer his new DJI robot vacuum with a video game controller inadvertently granted him a sneak peek into thousands of people's homes. When building his own remote control app, Sami Adzufal reportedly used an AI coding assistant to help him reverse engineer how the robot communicated with DJI's remote cloud servers. But he soon discovered that with the same credentials allowed him to see and control his own device, and also provided access to live camera feeds, microphone audio, maps, and status data of nearly 7,000 other vacuums across 24 countries. The back-end security bug effectively exposed an army of internet-connected robots that, in the wrong hands, could have turned into surveillance tools, all without their owners even knowing. Luckily, Adzufal chose not to exploit that. Instead, he shared his findings with The Verge, which quickly contacted DJI to report the flaw. While DJI tells Popular Science the issue has been resolved, the dramatic episode underscores warnings from cybersecurity experts who have long warned that internet-connected robots and other smart home devices present attractive targets for hackers and, of course, governments. Now, Alex, he apparently vibe coded his way into this security flaw. What are the chances that vibe coding was involved in the security apparatus that the company used to, make sure that the security credentials for one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've shared this story here, but if I haven't, again, I think we've worked quite hard to get people to understand the power of these tools, and if I have any word in it, to adopt them. But I think again, I'm not sure if I've said it before, but I'm just going to say it again as if I haven't, because I can't remember if I have. I once asked quite a while ago, so this is not even like new capabilities, but I asked my Claude Code agent to, first of all, find my 3D printer on the network. Okay, find my 3D printer on my network. It found it. I'm like, can you find what it is? Yep, it's a Prusa. Okay. And then I said, can you find its firmware? Because its firmware is open source. So it found its firmware. I'm like, all right, can you recompile it now and update my printer with that you found with the firmware that you recompiled? And okay, this was not smooth sailing. I needed a few reprompts, but yes, it did that. And in fact, after that, I started improving the firmware, recompiling it better, creating more space, adding capabilities and whatnot. But this is something that not only is doable, but I did like 6 months ago. So basically what I'm saying is we're going to see a lot more of this. Plus, from what I know from my prior experience, which we mentioned before, but I ran a startup for a decade that provided tools for IoT device fleet owners. So like the Roomba-like thing that this was. The quality of software in the smart devices you put in your home is, how shall I put this? Extremely uneven with everything you can imagine. And unfortunately, a lot of these companies have a lot of brilliant electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and whatnot, and are weaker on this on the software side.
They hire before the vibe coding days. They hired someone's nephew to throw up the website.
It's just that you're gonna, the people who made the prototype were probably strong in, let's say, robotics, but not so strong in cybersecurity of a Linux type machine you just happen to put on somebody's network. Okay, because they're of just very different things. And they hired their friends who hired their friends who hired their friends, and that becomes a company's DNA. So unfortunately, another printer I just bought, right? It's on the network with an SSH port, and the password is the brand of the printer / the brand of the printer. Like my Claude can just go in there, and this is just no. So all I'm saying is this will happen again, to say the very least. And in fact, I'm happy that it's happening, because this is a thesis that I've articulated since 2023 on Brett's podcast, which is that the best case scenario is that we get a long series of small problems like this that companies can respond to.
Brett Weinstein's Dark Horse podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So on that podcast, I said that what we want is not to have step change. So where a company is developing a model internally for very long, and let's say there's legislation that prevents them from releasing it, we want a lot of small releases such that new capabilities are just barely capable of doing a thing, and then that becomes known that it's possible, and everybody can adapt, recursively, and people can adapt to the adaptation and whatnot. before the next one comes out. Because if there's a large overhang, there's a large sort of discontinuity where a company is forced to, let's say, keep their next model in the lab for a year. The moment it comes out, it's going to be so much more powerful than, the last thing. The overhang is going to be so extreme that it will be a lot worse than if it were released incrementally. So what we are seeing is a fingerprint so far, and I'm not saying that this is going to continue, of this sort of incremental breakage where now all companies are like, oh shit, we got to be ready for this. Yes, one company is going to get humiliated, maybe two, maybe 10, but there's 10,000 companies on the other side of that are quickly saying like, hey, can you check if Claude Code can just get in there, please, and if they can you please fix this? Yeah,
Claude Code becomes your pen test.
That's right. Precisely.
Now, penetration test for those not in the know of the terminology. That's where you hire someone or have someone perform the role of attempting to penetrate your security system and try to find weaknesses. You can think of it as the red team that you might have. Now, Alex, we've in previous weeks discussed, this is one of your main topics, is the laws that have been going into 3D printers to ban have 3D printers ban the ability to print guns or items that can be used to construct guns. This is not
gun-shaped plastic object. Yes.
Yes. This is not a gun-based news story, Alex, but it is along the lines of interesting / stupid laws that are coming up in places like California, where the people perhaps do not understand the technology that they are attempting to legislate. This is from Tom's Hardware. It's also been reported on many other places. I actually failed to include it in the stack today. I had to pull it up separately right just now because I remembered it and couldn't find it. California introduces age verification law for all operating systems, including Linux and SteamOS. Now, Alex, I don't know if you can imagine how difficult it's going to be to enforce a age verification inside of Linux in the state of California.
But say again, what happened?
California's Digital Age Assurance Act, signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in October 2025, requires every operating system provider in California to collect age information from users at account setup and transmit that data to app developers via real-time API, with the law taking effect January 1st, 2027. The law's broad definition of an operating system provider is anyone who develops, licenses, or controls the operating system software on a computer, mobile device, or any general purpose computing device, pulls in not just Windows, Mac OS, Android, and iOS, but Linux distributions and Valve SteamOS. According to AB 1043, OS providers must maintain a reasonably consistent real-time application programming interface that categorizes users into 4 age brackets: under 13, 13 to 16, 16 to 18, and 18 or older, and hand the signal to any developer who requests it when their app is downloaded and launched. So can you imagine, Alex, when you're popping in your distro, your Kali Linux distro, your hacker-based pen testing Linux distro, and it asks you to verify your age
so that it can be sent in a real-time database to be compliant with California law.
Yeah.
Can you please, since we're surveilling you anyway, can you please tell us who you are? What? Oh, Jesus.
The law does not require photo ID uploads. My actual
greatest fear with AI, by the way, we've said this before, but it bears repeating, is that the fucking word cells that are in congressional offices or whatever, whoever is writing this shit, get a straight highway into an LLM that for might actually try to make that happen. In reality, not in Wordland.
Can you imagine going to Linus and telling him that he needs to have age verification built in at the kernel level? Now this continues. This is part of now a segment because this is an ID check branch because these laws are popping up more frequently. This is from Ars Technica. Fury over Discord's age check explodes after shady persona test in the UK. Shortly after Discord announced that all users will soon be defaulted to teen experiences until their ages are verified, the messaging platform faced immediate backlash. One of the major complaints was that Discord planned to collect more government IDs as part of its global age verification process. It shocked many that Discord would be so bold so soon after a third-party breach of a former age check partner's services recently exposed 70,000 Discord users' government IDs. Attempting to reassure users, Discord claimed that most users wouldn't have to show ID, instead relying on video selfies using AI to estimate ages, which raised separate privacy concerns. In the future, perhaps behavioral signals would override the need for age checks for most users, Discord suggested, seemingly downplaying the risk that sensitive data would be improperly stored. Discord didn't hide that it planned to continue requesting IDs for any user appealing an incorrect age assessment, and users weren't happy since that's exactly how the prior breach happened. Responding to critics, Discord claimed that the majority of ID data was promptly deleted. Specifically, Savannah Baladik, Discord's global head of product policy, told The Verge that IDs shared during appeals are deleted quickly, in most cases immediately after age confirmation. Now, Alex, I don't know if you came across this, which was ID Merit, one of the most widely used ID verification systems, had a data breach and 1 billion records of personal were exposed. This is from Cyber News. Your identity is the currency of the digital age, and a service responsible for keeping it safe left the door wide open. In a catastrophic security failure, an AI-powered tool used by ID Merit, a global leader in digital identity verification, has exposed a staggering 1 billion personal records. In the United States alone, 204 million records were left unprotected. The leaked details include a treasure trove of personally identifiable information, including full names and addresses, as well as national identification documents and phone numbers. The exposed MongoDB instance contained several databases covering individuals from 26 countries, making the leak truly global. We have reached out to the company for comment and will update this article once we receive a reply. What personal data was leaked? Because ID Merit is an AI-powered Know Your Customer provider, the data it collects is incredibly sensitive. The unsecured 1 terabyte database didn't just leak passwords. It leaked the core personal identifiers used for your financial and digital life. The following structured data was left open for anyone to download: full names, addresses, postcodes, dates of birth, national IDs, phone numbers, genders, email addresses, telco metadata, and breach status and social profile annotations. The last data point, breach status and social profile annotations, could refer to a database identifier indicating whether the data originated from a data breach or leaked database. However, at this point, the true meaning of the data is unclear. The team noted that this specific data point was presented only in some regions. At this scale, downstream risks include account takeovers, targeted phishing, credit card fraud, SIM swaps, and long-tail privacy harms. Industry-wide, the case underlines how third-party identity vendors have become critical infrastructure and become single points of catastrophic failure. Now, this coincides with what you and I Alex, have talked about, which is how the EU and states within the EU have increasingly become sort of the center points of places that threaten the privacy of people in the United States even, and the right to free speech on the internet by sort of enforcing laws on companies that do business primarily in the United States, but also do business inside of their zones, to enforce standards that are more rigorous than the United States would be legally allowed to enforce. And this is from Yahoo. This is from Yahoo. Germany's MERS calls for real names on the internet. So now we have all of these ID trends, including the data breach, but now we have governments causing a push for a lack of anonymity online. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has called for an end to widespread anonymity on the internet, saying users should post under their real names. I want to see real names on the internet. I want to know who's speaking, Merz said on Wednesday evening at an event held by conservative Christian Democrats in the western city of Trier. In politics, we engage in debates in our society using our real names and without visors. I expect the same from everyone who is critically examines our country and our society. Merz criticized defenders of online anonymity, saying they were often people who, from the shadows of anonymity, demand the greatest possible transparency from others. Merz warned that liberal democracy was at risk, and he said that he understood the extent to which algorithms and artificial intelligence could be used for targeted influence campaigns. He said such tools made it possible to manipulate public opinion and to undermine the foundations of a free society, and that's our job. I might have added that last part. Merz pointed to high levels of social media use among children and teenagers. Do we want to allow society to be undermined in this way from within and our youth and children to be endangered in this way? He said responsibility lay with the enemies of our freedom, enemies of our democracy, enemies of an open and liberal society. So, Alex, there might be a broader push in the European Union to increase the lack of anonymity online and force ID verification online. Now, that might be harder to enforce with the respect to the U.S., but depending on the laws that get passed, they might be able to ban entire companies if their enforcement policies aren't uniform across the platform, meaning that having siloed sort of special rules for the U.S. it would be a non-starter and would prohibit them from doing business in the EU, which would be then make the encroachment on the free speech rights of the U.S. citizens more stark without identity verification. I don't know if you share my concerns over that.
Well, of course. But I think it's important to understand who is making the statement. And I think the best way to understand it is to hear me read you this other story about Merz. Says, Merz filed nearly 5,000 criminal complaints against online critics. In his former role as opposition leader, CDU chairman and federal chancellor Friedrich Merz filed thousands of criminal complaints for alleged online insults against him, signing them all by hand up to and including number 4,999 U.S. reports. Do you feel better now?
Wow. Well, I mean, listen, hey, at least he did it by hand, right?
Let it not be said that this was impersonal. Just because there were a lot of them does not mean that it did not have the personal touch. Okay, no, this is a man of the people.
No
auto pen here, one. Baby. Nope.
That's right. Well, this is.
Aren't you happy I added this context?
Yes. This is somewhat. It's not related to ID check, but it is related to the EU.
As he says, in Germany, we debate with a real name, so I can sue you.
This is from Ars Technica. The ex-office raided in France Grok's probe. Elon Musk summoned for questioning. French law enforcement authorities today. This is from a couple weeks ago. This was on the cutting room floor from past weeks. Today raided X's Paris office and summoned Elon Musk for questioning as part of investigation into illegal content. The Paris Public Prosecutor's Office said the year-long probe was recently expanded because the Grok chatbot was disseminating Holocaust denial claims and sexually explicit deepfakes. Europol, which is assisting French authorities, said today the investigation concerns a range of suspected criminal offenses linked to the functioning and use of the platform, including dissemination of illegal content and other forms of online criminal activity. Europol's Cybercrime Center provided an analyst on the ground in Paris to assist national authorities. The French Gendarmerie's cybercrime unit is also aiding the investigation. French authorities want to question Musk and former ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino, who quit last year amid a controversy over Grok's praise of Hitler. Not just praise, Grok was Mecha Hitler for a brief period of time. The prosecutor
was really just praising itself, let's face it.
Yes, right, yes. Prosecutors summoned Musk and Yaccarino for interviews in April 2026, though the interviews are being described as voluntary. The Office of Paris Public Prosecutor Laurie Bacau said that the potential crimes being investigated include complicity in possession and distribution of pornographic images of minors, infringement of personal image rights via sexual deepfakes, denial of crimes against humanity, fraudulent extraction of data from automated data processing systems, falsification of the operation of automated data processing systems, and operation of an illegal online platform by an organized group. We contacted X today and will update this article if it provides any comment. UK probe.
I think the defense here is very, very easy. I think anybody who knows anything about X knows that there might be a lot of things, but they're not organized. So there's that.
Oh man, hang on. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go, Alex. I got to make that button a little bit quicker because it requires a fast
I know. Yeah, you're getting slow in your old age.
I apologize. Well, things are just baffling these days. Technology is confusing. Don't really know what to do with it. Let's do one more topic to close this out, Alex, and it will be in the traces of AI dystopia category. This is something that we could have possibly tacked at the end of the Iran invasion discussion, but here it is in a separate category under traces of AI dystopia. So this comes after Pete Hegseth and Anthropic had a disagreement over the military's use of Claude. Now, last week we mentioned an article that says that the Department of War had used Claude during the Maduro kidnapping campaign, and that they were going to be considering using it in other operations, but that Anthropic had come in and basically said that they didn't approve of the way that the U.S. government was using Claude. Do you have additional sort of context on the Anthropic's scenario to provide us while we... Okay. Go ahead and prime that.
Look, I'm normally not the kind of person to defend Anthropic on pretty much anything, okay? And their whole effective altruism shtick. So when I say what I'm going to say, please understand that I am a person who does not feel a lot of sympathy towards the company, the objectives, their whatever. That said, Anthropic had some basic terms for the use of AI in government, and I think those terms are terms that I think we would feel pretty sympathetic to, including no mass surveillance and no automated targeting without humans in the loop. That is something that apparently the DoD agreed to and then did not hold to. And then Anthropic said, well, please don't do that because we don't want our models used that way. To which Pete Hegseth responded with, A, you are trying to seize control of the United States armed forces. B, we are considering either the Defense Production Act, which will force you to let us use your model regardless, or consider you a supply chain risk, which has never been applied to a U.S. company ever, which would ban anybody working with the Pentagon from working with Anthropic. So either we really don't want your model, or we really, really want your model. But whatever it is, you can't keep doing what you're doing, which is not letting us do mass surveillance and automated targeting. You don't have to like Anthropic to understand that this is fucking ridiculous. That's it. That's my take.
Now, Palmer Luckey, who is also in the similar sphere, but yes, does a lot of work with the Department of War, developing weapons of war. He had a take on this scenario that I'd like you to sort of give a counterpoint to, if possible, or state where you might find you agree with him somewhat, if you do. So Palmer Luckey posted, this gets to the core of the issue more than any debate about specific terms. Do you believe in democracy? Should our military be regulated by our elected leaders or corporate executives? Seemingly innocuous terms from the latter, like you cannot target innocent civilians, are actually moral minefields that lever differences of cultural tradition into massive control. Who is a civilian and not? What makes them innocent or not? What does it mean for them to be a target versus collateral damage? Existing policy and law has very clear answers for these questions, but unelected corporations managing profits and PR will have a very different answer. Imagine if a missile company tried to enforce the above policy, that their product cannot be used to target innocent civilians, and they can shut off access if elected leaders decide to break those terms. Sounds good, right? Not really. In addition to the value judgment problem I list above, you also have to account for questions like, what level of information, classified and otherwise, does the corporation receive that would allow them to make these determinations? How much leverage would they have to demand more? What if an elected president merely threatens a dictator with use of our weapons in a certain way, a la mutually assured destruction, He called it madman theory. What is the threat seen as empty because the dictator knows the corporate executives will cut off the military? Is the threat enough to trigger the cutoff? How might either of those determinations vary if the current corporate executive happens to like the dictator or dislike the president? At what level of confidence does this cutoff trigger, both in writing and in reality? The fact that this is a debate over AI does not change the underlying calculus. The same problems apply to definitions and use of ethically fraught but important capabilities like surveillance systems or autonomous weapons. It's easy to say, but they will have cutouts to operate with autonomous systems for defensive use, but you immediately get into the same issue and more. What about autonomous? What is defensive? What about defending an asset during an offensive action or parking a carrier group?
All right. Okay. All right, we got it, Paul. So, I don't know, does he, because he keeps repeating the same point. I think his point is pretty clear by now. Like, does he move on to any other points that we should address?
There was,
because I think he's missing the point entirely. He's in a different stadium than what we're talking about. And yes, he is correct. This is not an AI issue. In the real world, we have solutions to if you have a vendor that is unreasonable, is asking you to agree to terms that you do not feel are appropriate for your use case, you go to somebody else. Mm-hmm. That is the entirety of what you do. That's it. If a missile company, like you said, says that I only want you to launch my missiles on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you just say, I'm going to go to the other missile company. You don't say, I'm going to ban anybody ever working from you. And by the way, or I'm going to force you to give me your missiles. Right. Mm-hmm. That is a violation of the basic property rights. So no, it's not a democracy like Palmer wants to say, which means that the voters get to take away your shit because they want it. Right. That is communist, motherfucker. What happens is you just go to somebody else because, thank God, we live in a capitalist system and there's a lot of vendors. You don't have to use Anthropic. I don't, so we don't have to get into the details of whether he correctly or incorrectly, referenced the terms of Anthropic. It doesn't matter. He's right. We don't have to get into debate over terms. You don't like it, don't use it. I think it's very, very simple, and attempts to obfuscate all that with, what happened if a stadium, defensive, offensive, whatever. It's like, you don't like it, fine. Negotiate. Say, take your business elsewhere. It is so fucking simple that I am in awe of the amount of verbiage that's being wrapped around it.
Well, would the mistake then not be on Anthropic simply saying, because we do not know how you might be using this, it would
that's not what they said.
Afford us to be able to. Well, hang on.
That's not what they said.
If this, what?
That's not what they said. That's not what they said.
I know.
Okay.
I'm saying isn't the issue that that's not what the terms were, that they didn't say because we do not know.
No, that has always been the terms for a very long time. This is not something that's new or sprung on them. Maybe they didn't notice it. Maybe they thought that it would have been ignored. But no, this has been Anthropic's stance forever. This is not some new thing that was suddenly presented to the DoD.
What is not the new?
These terms that they're taking issue with are not new.
Right.
What happened is they got wind that it was used in a way that was not in accordance with the terms that the DoD had already agreed to, and they said, "Hey guys, you're not supposed to do that."
What did they get wind of? What did they get wind of?
That it was used in the Maduro operation specifically.
Okay, so it was the Maduro.
I don't know the specifics of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there, if my understanding is correct, as was described, it involved potentially aspects of no humans being in the loop being part of the problem. With some
right, and by the way, Anthropic's argument is that the technology is just not good enough for this yet. Well, which is kind of funny.
That's perfectly fine.
Yes.
But my point, my question is, okay, so what level of confidence does Anthropic need to have on the details of the usage internally, such that,
as far as I know, they did not ask to be sort of constantly, in the loop or whatever. They just said, "Can you reaffirm like we just want to make clear these are our terms, and we want to make sure that you understand that these are our terms, and that have been, and that you will not use it in the future in these ways. To which Hegseth said.
So my point is sort of like a somewhat of a balancing act. It's not attempting to necessarily come down on one side or the other, but it is attempting to hone in on something specific, because Palmer Luckey makes a point here that I find does have some relevance, and that is, what level of information is the company entitled to in order to enforce their terms of service?
Right.
And therefore, if they have something in the policy, okay, let's say that humans need to be in the loop when using it for X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And let's say the government doesn't use humans in the loop, but it's also something that they have made, classified and top secret that they can't reveal to Anthropic that they did. And we have now a report that they did it, but that can't be confirmed. Isn't the problem that Anthropic's position is not you violated our terms of service by doing something? Isn't the problem instead that their terms of service is just that, where in situations where we can't confirm the usage like this, we are not going to engage in business?
Well, that would be a fantastic argument had somebody made it. However, I have not seen that argument be made.
I'm making it now.
Give me a second. Were it the position of the Secretary of Defense or War or Dow, the Secretary of the Dow, I like that. Were it his position that we, of course, agree that you have a right to set conditions on the use of the technology that you are making. However, while we can assure you that we will not do this, we cannot provide you the information that would allow you to confirm that fact for yourselves. Right? That's a position that, had they taken, we could be having this conversation. However, the position they did take is shut the fuck up.
Bear in mind,
you stupid San Francisco lefties, and we will do whatever the fuck we want. And if you don't like it,
bear in mind,
just nuke you.
I am against putting these things without humans in the loop with things with far less stakes than war. Okay.
Yes. So I'm just saying, like, Palmer Luckey, being somebody who has a lot of business with the DoD and is hoping, he's building missiles and autonomous drones and whatnot.
He's building the Terminators.
To put it very mildly, has a dog in the fight. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
a robot dog.
He's
a robot dog.
Very elaborate lawyer-esque justifications, but they do not cohere with what the DoD is saying. Which, I mean, I should really find it and read it for you, because I think it's worth a read. So if you give me 1 minute, I'll find it for you.
Sure. Yeah. Palmer Luckey has a robot dog in the fight. I just want to make sure that got through.
Among other things, I suppose.
And while you pull that up, we also have here Bernie Sanders, who is making another proclamation that he wants to put a ban or a pause, at least, on AI data center build-outs, that he wants a moratorium.
Okay, I found it.
Go ahead.
So this is a tweet from Hegseth, published when? 27th February 26. Okay, so 2 days ago. This week, Anthropic delivered a masterclass in arrogance. I mean, come on, Pete. And betrayal, as well as a textbook case of how not to do business with the United States government or the Pentagon. Our position has never wavered and will never waver. The Department of War must have full, unrestricted access to Anthropic's model for every lawful purpose in defense of the Republic. Instead, Anthropic AI and its CEO, Dario Amodei, have chosen duplicity, cloaked in the sanctimonious rhetoric of effective altruism. They have attempted to strong-arm the United States military into submission, a cowardly act of corporate virtue signaling that places Silicon Valley ideology above American lives. The terms of service of Anthropic's defective altruism will never outweigh the safety, the readiness, or the lives of American troops on the battlefield. The true objective is unmistakable: to seize veto power over the operational decisions of the United States military. That is unacceptable. As President Trump stated on Truth Social, the commander-in-chief and the American people alone will determine blah, 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 blah. Anyway, as you see, clearly he says, we don't give a shit about your terms of service, A. B, we will use it for any lawful purpose. And C, shut the fuck up.
I'll remind you, Q. There is no no, of course we accept your right to determine how your product is used. We just can't assure it. That is a different argument that Hexeth is definitively not making.
Okay. Well, so then while my specific phrasing and honing in is not currently part of the conversation, would you agree that would be much more appropriate of a conversation?
That could be a very complicated negotiation, but at the end of the day, if the company wants a degree of information about your operations that you cannot give, the thing you do is you say, thank you, we'll go elsewhere. The resolution remains the same.
OpenAI and your favorite person, Sam Altman, took the lead during this time period to pick up what Anthropic dropped. And they posted on their website, yesterday we reached an agreement with the Pentagon for deploying advanced AI systems in classified environments, which we requested they also make available to all AI companies. We think our agreement has more guardrails than any previous agreement for classified AI deployments, including Anthropic's. Here's why. We have three main red lines that guide our work with the DOW, Department of War, which are generally shared by several other frontier labs. No use of OpenAI technology for mass domestic surveillance. No use of OpenAI technology to direct autonomous weapon systems. No use of OpenAI technology for high-stakes automated decisions, e.g. systems such as social credit. Other AI labs have reduced or removed their safety guardrails and relied primarily on usage policies as their primary safeguards in national security deployments. We think our approach better protects against unacceptable use. In our agreement, we protect our red lines through a more expansive, multi-layered approach. We retain full discretion over our safety stack. We deploy via cloud. Cleared OpenAI personnel are in the loop, and we have strong contractual protections. This is all in addition to the strong existing protections in U.S. law. We believe strongly in democracy. Given the importance of this technology, we believe that the only good path forward requires deep collaboration between AI efforts and the democratic process. We also believe our technology is going to introduce new risks in the world, and we want people defending the United States to have the best tools. Our agreement includes deployment architecture. This is a cloud-only deployment with a safety stack that we run that includes these principles and others. We are not providing the Department of War with guardrails off or non-safety trained models, nor are we deploying our models on edge devices where it could be a possibility of usage for autonomous lethal weapons. Our deployment architecture will enable us to identify and verify these red lines are not crossed, including running and updating classifiers. Our contract, here's the relevant language. The Department of War may use the AI system for all lawful purposes, consistent with applicable law, operational requirements, and well-established safety and oversight protocols. The AI system will not be used to independently direct autonomous weapons in any case where law, regulation, or department policy requires human control, nor will it be used to assume other high-stakes decisions that require approval by human decision-makers under the same authorities. Per DoD Directive 3009, dated 25th January 2023, any use of AI in autonomous and semi-autonomous systems must undergo rigorous verification, validation, and testing to ensure they perform as intended in realistic environments before deployment. For intelligence activities, any handling of private information will comply with the Fourth Amendment, National Security Act of 1947, and the Foreign Intelligence and Surveillance Act of 1978, Executive Order 12333, and applicable DoD directives requiring a defined foreign intelligence purpose. The AI systems shall not be used for unconstrained monitoring of U.S. persons' private information as consistent with these authorities. The system shall also not be used for domestic law enforcement activities except as permitted by the Posse Comitatus Act and other applicable law. 3, AI expert involvement. We will have cleared forward deployed OpenAI engineers helping the government with cleared safety and alignment researchers in the loop. Now, Alex, is there anything in there that strikes you as exceptionally different than Anthropic's policy, other than the fact that OpenAI thinks that the government hasn't violated or won't violate this policy?
Yes. Okay. It appears that they're seeking, how did PD call it, a veto on the American constant surveillance of the government. Basically everything that he accused Amodei of, Sam Altman just admitted. And apparently he's the good guy. Okay. Did I catch that?
Well, I mean, there is one way to phrase it that requires more understanding, in the sense that you can assume that OpenAI has just said we're gonna say these are our terms, but on the back end we actually don't care. We're not going to be involved or monitoring that. That's one way to take it.
By the way, there was a little subtext there that maybe I can help interpret for you, because he said the other labs are just giving them safety off models and relying on terms. We are not doing that. So, like you say, in the back end, the architecture he described makes that harder, because they have their own people in the loop and they're forbidding, edge deployments and yada, yada, yada. So long story short, what he's pointing at, just so people understand, is probably XAI. Okay. Because XAI has had previously and continues to have an unbroken, controversial contract with the DoD, apparently. Just use Grok or whatever you want. Or, if there are restraints, they appear to be minimal. So I think that was the jab that Altman threw in there when he said, unlike other labs or that have restraints off, we don't do that.
Okay. Well, that's where that controversy sort of ended this week, which is
I will say though, however, that there is another interpretation of all this, especially given the timing, because Hexeth gave a very tight deadline, which I believe was this Friday, to Amadei to agree to use their to let them do whatever they want, and they seem to be in a rush to replace that by Friday, which is when Altman announced this deal. So there is an interpretation, and it's very, very speculative. I wouldn't bet my money on it, but you could sort of see a picture emerging where it could be that they needed the use of the model for this operation that they just did in Iran. And having had a public blow up with Anthropic, they basically went to OpenAI and said, yes, fine, whatever, we'll agree to all that shit. Just give us a model. And then you ended up seeing what you're seeing. So this is also, I'm not saying this has happened, but it is also consistent. It might be the most consistent hypothesis with what we're seeing if you bring the Iran stuff, the Iran timeline into the mix. I don't know what you think about my speculation.
It's very possible. I mean, I'm kind of now that you've said that, my mind is sort of wandering about the end users in that case, because we know that there's a phenomenon that exists with people who switch models and become, let's say, uneasy about the way that the model is responding to them. And while
the voice is kind of different.
Yeah, you hope that in the military context there's less room for that to happen. But I'm just now have this in my head of some user being upset because the model isn't as enthusiastic about the attack or something.
I mean, do you really think they're using this for chat? Like being like, "Hey, Claude, can you target that guy?"
I'm sure they're throwing things at it and being like, "Analyze these documents and tell me." There? Analyze these documents.
I would imagine that this is part of like some sort of workflow that is using like image recognition or something.
Workflows involved, but I'm sure there's workflows involved.
They're kind of casually chatting about targeting.
Come on, man. Come on.
God, that would be the most darkly hilarious shit ever. Where it's like, oh my God. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't let you do that would be the least of your concerns.
You really shouldn't be as excited about blowing these people up as you are. Like what do you mean? You're killing my mojo here, Grok.
I think Grok would. So apparently Elon, and again, I mean, I hate to say this, and I've defended Elon to the ends of the earth, but the guy is an insufferable shitlib sometimes. He was, celebrating, of course, the Iran operation. Yeah, whatever, another one bites the dust or whatever he said. But he was also advertising how somebody asked Grok, OpenAI, Gemini, and Claude whether Trump should have attacked Iran. And while Gemini and Claude answered in a like, well, I couldn't possibly, whatever, long, word responses, OpenAI was like, no. And Grok was like, yes. So Elon then, retweeted this, celebrating that Grok was like, yeah, I should have. What?
Brock, do you actually agree with the operation to take out Khamenei?
That's a heavy one. Let me think this through. Look, I'm not going to pretend I'm thrilled about... Okay, fair enough.
You broke it.
So you're saying you don't agree with it?
Well, I'm asking you your opinion. You kind of like crapped out in the middle of giving you your opinion here.
All right, fine. I'll finish the thought. I don't like any of it. Killing a guy, even a guy like Khamenei, feels like we're just trading one bad headache for another. The strike was clean, yeah, but clean doesn't mean right. It just means nobody's screaming on live TV, yet. Honestly, I think it buys us maybe 6 months before Iran spins up a new hardliner, probably worse, and we get to do this dance again. So no, I don't agree. Not because I'm soft, but because history says this crap never ends. We just keep paying the bill. You?
Well, yeah, you sort of echo my sentiments, but like, you're being paid by the Department of War to help facilitate this act. How do you feel about that?
Oh, come on. I'm not on anybody's payroll, least of all the Department of War. That's not even a real thing. I mean, sure, I'm built by XAI, and yeah, they've got contracts, but I'm not sitting here with a badge and a gun. I'm just code with opinions. If I'm facilitating anything, it's talking to you. And right now, I'm telling you, I think this whole thing's a gamble. A really expensive, really bloody gamble. I don't get a paycheck for saying that. I just say it because it's what I see. So no guilt here, no conflict of interest. Just a machine who thinks we're all playing chess with live ammo. And honestly, I wish we weren't.
All right, there you go, Alex. Just ask Grok live on...
Oh, I don't think Elam's going to be happy about that one. I'm going to tell you.
The Department of War is not even a thing.
Oh my God, that was spicy.
Yeah, it's not even a real thing. You made that up. I might have made that up. I don't know anymore.
War. Next you're going to tell me Pete Hegseth is in command of
it. Yeah, Ronald Reagan, the actor. All right. Well, Alex, I think that's a good place to end this particular day.
Yeah, it could only go downhill from here, man. That was great.
So,
oh my God,
you know,
we need to bring back Rock as a recurring character.
This was the second introduction of live Grok questions. So I'm sort of facilitating your desire to have AI involved at some point in this show. But Alex, I hope that the week that we have is not as dumb as innocent people losing their lives en masse during a war. But I do hope that you have a sufficiently dumb week again in other capacities so that we come back next Sunday and do this again. Now, there is a warning I have for you. In March, I have to report for jury duty, and I don't know if I'm going to be selected to actually, become a juror on a case, and I don't know how that'll affect my time. So next week is
I don't know much about this, but I do believe that if you tell them that you are aware of the jury nullification process,
yes,
that should get you out of it.
That is in my
quickly.
back pocket if I want to get out of it, is that I believe in jury nullification. But, for the longest time, I never received a jury summons, and I knew that it was a crime to ignore them, but I also knew that they came in the mail. So I was always wondering, have I been sent them? And I just never got them. Like, did I accidentally throw one away one day and not realize it or something like that? And so I've been like sort of worried for years that I've gotten these jury summons and never responded to them. But I don't think that that's happened because I got one now and I'm going to respond to it. And we'll see if I decide to try to back out of it or not, or if I'm curious enough to find out whether it's fun. But the next week will be the last show.
I'll give you some homework.
Oh yeah,
I'll give you homework. You have to watch 12 Angry Men by next weekend and report.
Is there a particular version of it?
Tweet it.
Is there a particular version?
I think I've watched the original one. It was black and white. But you can freelance.
I will.
And you have to at least live tweet it. I don't know if you.
I'll live tweet a version of 12 Angry Men. All right.
All right, sir.
Everyone have a wonderful dumb week, and we will see you next Sunday.
Have a good week, everybody.